of the Southampton Town Board to order on this 29th day of March, 2023. Please rise if you're able and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing. I ask that you join with the town board, as we do at our meetings, in a brief moment of silence as we keep in our thoughts and prayers all of the men and women of our armed services who bravely defend our freedoms at home and abroad each day. So with them in mind, let's join together for a brief moment of silence. Thank you. Please be seated. Madam Clerk, would you read the special meeting notice followed by a roll call?
Certainly. Members of the Town Board, special Town Board meeting Wednesday, March 29th, 2023 at 6 p.m. Please be advised that pursuant to Section 62 of Town Law, a special Town Board meeting will be held in the Town Board Meeting Room, Southampton Town Hall, 116 Hampton Road, Southampton, New York, on Wednesday, March 29th, 2023 at 6 p.m. for the purpose of considering the following. Public hearing for RFP selection of development, proposal, and concurrent zoning amendments required to effectuate waterfront revitalization urban renewal plan at 20 Shinnecock Road, Hampton Bays. J. Schneiderman, Supervisor, Town of Southampton, dated March 27, 2023. Supervisor Schneiderman.
Present.
Councilwoman McNamara. Present. Councilman Martell.
Present.
Councilman Bouvier.
Here.
Councilman Schivoni.
Present.
All right, thank you, Cindy. All right, I'd like to start with some opening remarks, and then I'll kick it over to Janice Shearer, our Town Planning and Development Administrator, and then we'll hear from our presenters, and then we will hear from people in Town Hall as well as on Zoom. This is a hybrid meeting. So first of all, thank you all for coming out this evening. I expect it to be a long evening, and we intend to stay until every voice is heard. Tonight's hearing is on two potential development plans for the Bel Air property. I know many of you will speak on an alternative plan that would use the property for park purposes. Although other alternatives were not listed in the hearing notice, I will certainly allow all comments related to this property. So everything you want to say will be certainly part of the record here. The large showing tonight demonstrates that the community of Hampton Bays cares about its future, and I assure you the town board also cares about the community of Hampton Bays and its future. When I ran for office as supervisor 8 years ago, there was also a strong unity of voices. Perhaps you'll remember. They were laser focused in their concerns. They said, Hampton Bays is being ignored by the town. Property taxes keep getting higher. Property values are going down. No one is investing in downtown. Houses are overcrowded with workers. Hotels have become low-wage apartment buildings. School enrollment keeps growing. The drinking water is rusty in color. Our beaches by the inlet are washing away. Dune Road regularly floods, and it's often impassable. Town facilities are not being maintained, like the pavilion at Ponquag Beach. We listened to the people of Hampton Bays. We set out to reverse that trend with a plan to increase property values, lower property taxes, address blight, and improve infrastructure. The plan involved increased code enforcement, targeted investments in parks and water infrastructure, attracting investment into downtown, and securing grants for community improvements. To that end, we built out Good Ground Park with an amphitheater, restrooms, and playgrounds. We elevated Dune Road, an average of 6 inches higher from the bridge to the Quag Village line. We secured county and federal help to rebuild the Ocean Beach near the inlet. We installed filters in the water system to remove iron and other contaminants. We invested in improvements to athletic facilities at Red Creek Park. We built a pavilion and parking area at the Canal Maritime Park. We funded the reconstruction of the burnt-down playground at Forster Avenue Park. We purchased the building where our community and senior center is located, and the commercial space next door, which is now the center of our code enforcement operations. We hired more code enforcement personnel and conducted sweeps of overcrowded housing. We set up an online platform for the public to report code violations. We increased police patrol in Hampton Bays. We started blinking the light at Canoe Place Road to help alleviate morning traffic congestion, which, by the way, returns on Monday. We worked with the state to get eastbound train service in the morning and added downtown parking. We provided grants to downtown businesses to improve their storefronts. We increased funding for beautification projects. We built the fishing pier along the bridge. We restored historic buildings, including the Liaison Hat Shop and the Tiana Life Saving Station. We secured ownership of the county, from the county, of the commercial dock on Dune Road and rebuilt the docks and bulkhead. The list goes on. My point being, we listened. And now, 7 years later, we find property values in Hampton Bays, in some cases, have tripled. The tax rate, including the schools for all tax districts, is 10% lower today than it was when I took office. And in the 7 years prior, in the 7 years prior to that, the tax rate had climbed more than 20%. The school population is also going down significantly and projected to continue to decrease each year. So it seems what we have been doing is working. Our efforts regarding the Bel Air property have been well-intentioned. I know some of you feel our efforts are not in the community's best interest. Some of you may be under the impression that we are promoting high-density housing on a sensitive wetland parcel, or that our plans will pollute the bay or not comply with FEMA flood elevations. You may think that we have alternative motives, or that we're stubborn, or just don't listen. The truth is that all of us on this board are public servants elected to do the people's work, and that is what we do every day. We have no other interest in working in the public interest, and some of us were not even on the board at the time that we purchased the Bel Air property. So let me explain why it was that we looked to revitalize the Bel Air property. Hampton Bays has long had a tourism economy, but in the 1980s, it had become a haven for young partygoers, and there were problems. The community spoke loudly at that time to elected officials about crowded share houses and the rowdy party scene. The town listened. It shut down the nightclubs and cracked down on illegal share houses. But there was never a plan to transition the economy to a family-friendly tourism model or anything else. The town purchased some nightclubs, like Neptune's and Summers. The empty rental share houses soon became filled with low-wage workers, and the hotels, no longer able to rent rooms for tourism, became low-wage apartment buildings. The Bel Air was one of those properties. People complained that it was a dangerous fire trap, that it was paying little taxes to the school, but putting in a dozen or so children to be educated. They said, please address this issue as a top priority, and please don't take it off the tax rolls. When it came up for sale, I had hoped that someone from the private sector would buy it, fix it up, and return it to a hotel use. It sat idle for years, continuing to be used as an apartment. The town could have taken the easy path and used CPF funds to buy it and tear it down. That would have made the problem go away. But we wanted to do more. We wanted to show that former hotel properties that had become affordable housing apartments could now be successfully converted back to viable tourism uses. The new plan would provide the schools significantly higher tax contributions, helping keep property taxes lower for everyone else. And excess profits from the sale of the property would go to a blight mitigation fund solely for Hampton Bays. The density would be equal or lower to the existing Bel Air motel density. The construction would be further from the water and meet flood elevations. The sanitary system would be removed, and a new one that removed nitrogen would be located as far from the water as possible. Guests of the boutique hotel would help support the neighboring restaurant and bar, as well as the cafe market across the street. Guests would also visit shops downtown and help support those businesses, helping to strengthen the local economy. And most importantly, other similar properties would see that it was now viable to return to tourism uses, rather than be used as affordable housing. The town developed and adopted a revitalization plan and lent the money, $1.1 million, from surplus to acquire the property for the purpose of reselling it to a suitable entity and then returning the money to the taxpayers. When we held the hearing on the plan, there were people who opposed it. They wanted it to be a park and not a boutique hotel. They said it would provide public access to the water. They wanted CPF to buy it and tear the building down. The new park would add to the town trustee park just to the east, and people could launch kayaks and paddle boards. The town considered their desires. Again, it would have been much easier to just use CPF funds to buy the property. But the town chose a more difficult path that we thought was in the best interest of the goals that had been voiced by the community years earlier, which were to lower taxes and improve property values. Perhaps the community has now changed its direction. If now the community is okay with taking the property off the tax rolls and not providing example of how hotels being used for affordable housing can return to hotel uses, that's okay. That's a sign of success. Although the plans you will hear tonight fully reimburse the town the money it lent itself and are projected to provide nearly $40,000 a year to the local school without adding any children. We can still consider other plans. And I have heard significant calls for a passive park. I've also heard other suggestions, all sorts of alternatives for this property. For example, I've heard the idea of a town shellfish hatchery going there to help clean Shinnecock Bay. I've heard a concession like a clam bar should go there. I've heard a kayak and boat rental facility should go there. I've heard a miniature golf facility should go there. I've heard an open lot should be there with shaded kiosks for farmers markets and craft shows, which are not allowed on CPF properties, and this is not a CPF property. I've heard that the town trustees want the property for their offices and Bay Constable offices. I've heard people say that it should be a campsite. I've heard that it should be a dredge spoil site so that we can dredge that canal. And even one person suggested that we build 3 single-family homes there. We can certainly put together a committee with members of the community to fairly examine all the other proposed uses and recommend changes to the adopted plan. The 1.3-acre property could likely have more than one use, such as an aquaculture facility and a clam bar and a kayak launch. Tonight, we are here to listen to 2 presenters who have responded to our requests for redevelopment proposals. They have worked hard and deserve your consideration. Each will have 10 minutes to make their presentation. You will have an opportunity to speak. Again, everyone will be heard, and I will not limit the comments to just these 2 proposals before us tonight. I just ask that all comments be respectful to the presenters and that comments be limited to 3 minutes in length. At this point, I'd like to turn things over to Janice Shearer, our Town Planning and Development Administrator, who will introduce the presenters.
Excuse me, we need to open the public hearing. I read the meeting notice, but now I
Okay.
need to
All right.
open it.
So, okay, with that, I will turn things over to Sunday to read the public hearing notice. Okay, I thought that was part of the first part.
That was part of the
Meeting notice,
meeting
okay.
notice, yes.
Okay, and then to Janice.
Okay. Public hearing number 1 for RFP selection of development proposal and concurrent zoning amendments required to effectuate waterfront revitalization urban renewal plan at 20 Shinnecock Road, Hampton Bays.
All right, thank you. So again, Janice Shearer, our Town Planning and Development Administrator,
Good
will
evening,
introduce
Mr.
the subject.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor, members of the board. Thank you to the community for coming out. Just to echo the supervisors. Better? Sure.
I can take care of that.
Thank you, Charles. Just here to say that, when we put out the RFP, there was some goals that each presenter had to meet. And so they'll go over that when they show the presentation. Not everyone had the benefit of seeing the work session. So I just wanted to read the following goals when we put out the RFP for purchase and then redevelopment. So the goals were that the project proposed, we have two proposers tonight, would improve the appearance from the street and waterfront. The proposal would be contextually compatible and have appropriate architecture, support the tourism economy, reduce impacts on town and school services, reduce the overall residential density from the current use of 20 units that were being used at the time for dwelling units, provide additional property tax revenues as discussed, guarantee that the property would not revert to non-tourism uses, provide a guarantee about basically that if no purchaser were found, it would revert back. And then just quickly, we were sued. Not unusual. We got sued here about this plan, and this case was dismissed. And I just wanted to mention what the court said about SECRA, just in case you haven't really read the transcript. But basically, the court had told us that that the town did have a rational basis, did not abuse its discretion, and took the requisite hard look under the rule of reason to reach the obvious conclusion that acquiring and planning to clean up a blighted property did not pose a significant environmental impact. The court further observed that the approval of the plan and the anticipated future construction activity at this property are separate actions that would require a separate SECRA review, and explain that to require that SECRA review at the time when it was still vague would be impossible in the abstract and constitute a premature and purely academic exercise. So we did SECRA on the plan, but then you have to sort of pick a proposal and know what we're
Then you have to
dealing
decide.
with, and then to do SECRA again. So I just wanted to make that
The
clear.
adopted urban renewal plan, that is available online, correct?
Correct.
I don't know if we have any copies here, but.
I do have a copy here.
If people haven't read it, I suggest reading it, because it really goes through a lot of the history and the rationale behind the town's actions up to this point.
Right, so that is the Waterfront Resort Revitalization Plan. It's under the Hampton Bay section of our website. And, today we have two proposers. One is, they're both in line with the goals and objectives of the plan. One is Mr. Rich Carrozza, who is proposing senior rental or condominium units. I'm sorry.
Ownership,
Purchase.
purchase.
Units. And the other is Mr. Chad Gesson, who proposes a sort of resort condo hotel type of arrangement. So with that, I don't know who's planning on going first. Is that you this time, Chad, or? Okay, so Mr. Gesson will be first and present his project. We have it up on the screen, or we will. And I'm here if you have any questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Janice.
Thanks. Thanks, Janice. Thanks to the board. Thanks, everyone, for coming here. This has been an interesting process so far, and I do encourage people to read that waterfront revitalization plan as well, because I think it was well reasoned. And we came pretty attracted to this because we're waterfront builders here in the Hamptons for 22 years. We also live here in West Hampton Beach. And we have seen this property blighted on the corner of Shinnecock for, that many years at least. And the opportunity to redevelop this into the community that we're planning over here is one that we're really looking forward to, and we hope it comes to fruition. Maybe if you wouldn't mind, could you put up the aerial picture that we put together as the first shot? Do you have that?
I don't.
Okay, that's all right. So you don't, right? All right, so I'll start with the site plan here. So basically the overview here is, as was discussed by Janice, it's a hotel condominium, which means that it is available for purchase, and the usage is limited to 90 days by the unit owner itself, and then it goes back into a pool where the manager of the condominium, of the homeowners association, would be responsible to rent those units out on behalf of those condominium unit owners. One of the things that's nice for the community about that is that it ensures a uniformity of the appearance and of the maintenance over the life of this property. It also it doesn't keeps you not subject to individual owners not properly maintaining their homes or their landscaping or anything like that. You've got a homeowners association, a board that's responsible to do that on behalf of the 12 units that we're proposing here. We're proposing a mix of sizes, so that are one bedroom in two different configurations, and then a two bedroom. Should back in to say that a lot of that was driven by the fact that the septic capacity is quite limited here. The town undertook to go through the process with Suffolk County Health over the past several years while they've owned this property. Suffolk County Health ultimately reduced the flow rate from what was existing at the prior hotel there. So now the flow rate has already been limited by about, I think, 350 gallons per day less than what was existing at the property before. And then also imposing that we'll be using, as is standard now across the county, an IA system that is, instead of being located down by the canal, is actually going to be located all the way up in the northwest corner of the property under a gravel parking lot. So, but that drove the unit size considerations because due to that restricted flow, we're really looking at the flow rate of like 2 homes essentially is what this is for these small houses. So these small, I should call them, rental apartment units or hotel units basically. And so the way they'll work is they'll be short stay available. They're not subject to the 2-week limits of the rest of the town. They're available for whatever's reasonable in the minds of the operating group, which will be us at first, and then maybe a different group as the homeowners association takes hold over time. But typically, in our experience, operating a similar property to this on Dune Road in West Hampton Beach in the Village since 2020, it's typically a 2-night to 3-night minimum. We usually see 4 to 5 night stays at these properties. Very popular to see these people are people from inside of Long Island, from western Suffolk County and Nassau County who are looking for access to the beaches and to the bay and to really enjoy the waterfront resources that we have here and our nice villages out here. And they're people basically from our Long Island community that are traveling. I would say that at the Beach and Bay Bungalows that we own on Dune Road, that's about 75% of our traffic is from Long Island and New York City, and about 50% is just Long Island. I'm going to only have 10 minutes, so I'll run through the units real quick here. We can skip this chart. This is just showing how we split the units up. So this is basically what they'll look like. This is our smaller 1-bedroom unit that's going to be under 450 square feet. That's, again, to meet Suffolk County Health Department requirements. It has a small pied-à-terre style roof deck up on the 2nd floor there with an exterior staircase. I'm going to show a floor plan on the next slide as we go in there. So this is kind of what it looks like inside. It's just almost like a studio apartment kind of. It's a nice hotel suite basically with a big ceiling height, the gabled roof inside there. We can move on. The next unit is a 600 square foot unit, a little bit taller, and we can show the floor plan here. And you can see a little bit more space for dining and for gathering in there, but still quite small. Nice comfortable hotel room basically, with some outdoor space on the upper level. And then the last unit type looks like this, a little bit larger. This is a 2-bedroom with some sliding glass doors up on the top there, and this is a 2-story unit on the interior, which we can see the floor plan for that. And you can see there, it's 2 bedrooms on the ground level with a bathroom, and then up on the upper level is a living and dining space with a little balcony and a bathroom. If we could scroll back one more picture to the units, just want to speak about the construction. So one of the things that First Dunes prides itself on is that we basically only build here on the coast, and we're also extremely aggressive with our environmental footprint issues. So like all of our construction, we try to make it as close to LEED certified or passive house is really the direction we're going in now. These homes actually, because they're small, we're hoping that we actually can make them certified as passive homes. We're going to not have any gas on this property at all, so there won't be any propane here whatsoever. All of the water heating, cooking, heating will all be done by heat pumps connected to electricity. Depending on the solar exposure that we actually have here, which should be good, we'll have solar panels on these roofs to some extent to offset electrical use. We're also going to provide kayaks and paddleboards for use by the people on the property, as well as electric bicycles and electric charging stations in the parking lot. And I wish we had the aerial view here, which I hope the town will post up on the website. But
I wonder if you held it, if maybe the
Yeah.
cameraman can get a picture of it. If not, we can pass it to the audience or something.
So, you want to point it this way?
Charles, can you zoom in on that, Charlie?
Oh, they have a couple to pass out. So I just wanted to point out, that our plan is to really replant the property with native plantings throughout. and let this property just sort of settle into the neighborhood. I left out that it also will retain the existing pool that's there and reconstruct it.
Okay, hold it up, I think he can
There we go.
try to zoom in on it.
Cool. And we're also going to have a pickleball court in the corner of the property that'll be pervious. This property is built to about 16 or 15% lot coverage as opposed to the 20% maximum. That was part of the standard set forth in the revitalization plan.
So you probably can't see it because it's not on that screen, but we are seeing a, so this is an aerial rendering?
He has an aerial rendering of the property. So this is the property right here. Here's the bay and the canal coming in. And you can see it's a gravel parking lot out front. So that's fully pervious to allow recharge. And then we have the 12 cottages clustered inside. No
Just the
cars.
Audience, I just can't hear the presenter, so.
No cars are permitted inside the community, so that basically it's an all-walking community inside, and the cars park in the gravel parking lot out by the street, which is fully screened both on Shinnecock and also on the private way down the corner. And in terms of contextual nature of this property, I just wanted to point out that over here, I don't know if this is visible to the people on Zoom, but the property that's directly south is essentially the identical use to what we're proposing. In that it's several small cottages that don't have driveways or anything, and there's a common parking area right along the bulkhead there. And then the last part I'll just say is that as part of this construction project would be a reconstruction of the bulkhead over there, and a slight elevation of the ground along the bulkhead, because the rest of these bulkheads have been reconstructed, or many of them have, and elevated to new heights. And I know that there's some concern out in the community about the possibility for dredging and things like that. And certainly, to the extent that the dredge spoils are not contaminated and are compatible with the use, there's a need for some fill on this property. So there's no reason why that couldn't be a place where dredging material from this could be placed on the property that would be helpful, not hurtful. So, we'd be happy. We've experienced doing that. We formerly owned Windswept Marina in East Moriches for 25 years. And led a dredging program over there for the county of Tuttle Cove, and have had that experience in the past. So we had no problem doing that here as well, if that's important. I'm not doing
Okay,
questions.
let's get questions from the board at this point. I know at the last discussion, there was some questions about what the property taxes would be. So I did have the sole assessor do an analysis. And both proposals came in around the same, around $45,000 a year in property taxes, just so you know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we'd sent Janice our tax bill from the property in West Hampton Beach, and I think that sounds about right.
Yeah, and most of that is for the school. I think 70 or 75% goes right to the school, but the fire and ambulance and others.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, other questions for Mr. Gessen, right?
This is going to be a homeowners association.
It's going to be
So
a-
there will be bylaws and things about the stay for a homeowners association will be articulated from the outset.
Yeah, and I know
if you-
there's prior concerns about this converting to permanent residence.
Thank
So
you.
that's going to be written into the bylaws, and we'd already offered at one of the prior work sessions to make that a covenant restriction on the property. And in terms of enforcement, I know that's been a concern. The nice thing about a homeowners association is that they're going to get to the enforcement more quickly than the town. Don't take that as a negative comment, just the homeowners association is going to want to get that revenue for those violations and those fines. And also, in this particular case, the manager of the property gets a fee for the turnover of the hotel units. So in that case, they're motivated to make sure that they don't fall into permanent usage. They want to make those units be used as for their intended purpose.
And you have a 90-day limit?
90-day limit, yeah.
That's the longest the homeowner,
The unit owner could stay there in the course of a 12-month year, is 90
the
days.
rest of it has to be rented.
Correct.
And do you know what your, the prices you think you're gonna charge for a hotel stay at this location will be?
What do we usually get? We're like $300 to $600 a night on Dune Road. So I think it's pretty average around the area. 300 to 600, maybe some peak weekends you could see higher prices than that. But across the full year, that's about where it runs.
Okay, and the homeowners would buy the units for approximately how much?
We're thinking that the smaller ones are going to run in the $600,000-$700,000 range, and then the larger one just to scratch over $1 million, that kind of world.
Can I ask, other than, I asked you this last time, so
Yeah.
you're prepared to pay the town $1.5 million?
Yeah.
which would create about a $300,000 blight mitigation fund. Because
Yeah.
that's more money than we've paid. How much you gonna, in addition to that, how much do you think you'll be investing in the development of this property?
It's around, Amanda, what did they have there, like $5.5 million? It's like, or so, a little bit more than that.
That's the construction.
And also, there's a lot of land, there's a lot of
Is
site
that
work.
5.5 with the acquisition? Or
No,
five?
that's just the construction, yeah. It's a substantial amount of site work on this
So
property, you
it's
know.
a $7 million investment?
Something like that, yeah.
No.
It's a substantial amount of site work on the property, and I was going to say, you know, if you've got the blight mitigation fund out there, I know it's you can see how silted this the Penny Pond is. You know, it's a possibility maybe with the surplus funds that becomes something that can come back to the project, and the town can lead the dredging and the restoration of that pond as part of this project.
Do you see any public access that you'd be allowing to the water there, or no?
I mean, you have, there is already the trustee's property there, but I don't think it would be an issue in terms of the usage of this property to have the public being able to use the extended bulkhead that's being built on this, because the trustee's property doesn't seem to have a boardwalk on the bulkhead, and it also looks like it's not, you know, being well maintained. So we'll be rebuilding that, and I don't think we'd have an issue with allowing access, you know, through this property and then down onto that common walkway.
Okay. Any other questions? I know the audience may have questions. So what I'd like to do is because there could be lots of questions from the audience, go and let's have the second presenter, and then we can take comments, and if there are questions in those comments that we might have to bring you up now and again to
Right.
address a community concern or question.
Sure, happy to
Okay.
get up.
All right, thank you,
Thanks,
Mr. Gesson. Okay, Mr. Carosa, you're up next.
It's on board. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me here tonight. We have a little different take on it. What we're looking to do is a completely affordable senior getaway for people to live and be able to afford to stay in the town of Southampton and
Rich,
Hampton
just tell us your name and your company.
My name is Richard Carosa, and I'm from the RAC Group.
Back up a little bit.
Okay. Hear me now?
Yeah,
He can adjust it.
Our plan is to have senior affordable units, 16 of them, 600 square feet. Completely solar, battery-packed units. Will be a positive flow from the roofs to the batteries, which will enable the electric bills to be minimal, if any. We're going to have a pool with the gazebo in the rear of the property. We're going to have to replace the bulkhead. And the way we have it set up now is that some of the units will be able to have a boat slip. And it has to be worked out with the tenant across, because this property hasn't been operational in so many years. Everything kind of migrated to the other side. We're going to follow the guidelines with the town housing department. We've been working with Kara at the town housing department on different programs. Peter Elkowitz from Long Island Partnership is in the process of obtaining some funds to help supply the project with a discounted ability for purchases. The town of Southampton has a 55 and older statute, so anybody who lives there needs to be 55 years or older. There'll be no kids going to school. It'll be part of the bylaws of the association. My company originally set up the association to handle the property, and if all goes well, we'll stay on. Of course, the purchasers have the ability to make a change. They have their own board at that point, but we're going to maintain management. Got a lot of feedback from people in the area about access to the water. We wouldn't have a problem of creating an access pathway to allow public access to the water. The bulkhead's going to require us to put a raised probably about 6 to 10 inches. We had the DEC take a look at it, and it's below grade. So we're gonna raise the bulkhead up. We're gonna have a deck so people can actually walk along it when they use the water, not like it is now. We're gonna have 2 charging stations. One will be for public access because there is nothing down there that allows people to charge their car, even if they go to the beach and they don't charge their car before they leave. We're gonna have access to one of our charging stations, and there'll be one on the property, which again will be battery operated, and that'll enable people to have the ability to charge their cars. Each unit will be individual. The only thing will be together on it would be the septic system. And of course, as a previous presenter presented, the septic system will control the amount of space. So we're going to be well within the allowable square footage and that the site allows to be built. It's going to be a beautiful area for people to visit the beach. And each property will have a porch on it, just like the Hampton Way. And some of the details need to be worked out with the building department on exactly how we were able to structure the outside facilities. We're able to put patios, things like that. So
So I think we're showing a layout here, right?
this is kind of what they're going to look like. Going to be 4 buildings. They're going to look like this.
Charlie, can we get a zoom in of the rendering? This is the architectural style?
Correct. We're limited on height. The Board of Health does not want us to put a loft. Have the propriety of having make it seem like there's another floor. They want it on one floor only. So I want to kind of stay with what they have and get our approval that way.
Okay. And what do you, is it 15 or 16 units?
16.
16 units. Okay, and what do you plan on selling them for?
$439.
$439,000.
That's the limit of that the affordable units can be sold at,
Okay, and they'd be year-round?
year-round.
They'd be year-round. Is there a pool, did you say?
Pool with the gazebo and patio.
Okay. And how, do you know what your investment total will be? Well, first of all, you prepared to pay
$1.5 million acquisition.
$1.5 million for the property.
Site, with the new bulkhead, septic, bringing all your new utilities in, probably looking all in with the land at roughly $6 million.
$6 million, okay.
The reason why it's a little lower is because we're doing buildings on individual buildings.
Right. You don't have as many exterior walls.
Correct. For us, it didn't work financially to be able to separate them,
Right.
and we would lose lot
Can-
coverage.
Can I ask from, one of the goals of the urban renewal plan was tourism. Is there a tourism component of any kind here?
As far as a rental,
Well, no, in terms of, the seniors, they're gonna be living there year-round, or are they gonna be summer homes, or?
they're gonna own them, and there's not gonna be a requirement that they live there year-round. Can't make that requirement on a sale.
Right. Do you see it supporting some of the local shops? and
100%,
Restaurants?
100%. They're gonna be, that's what people do. They go out to dinner, they use all the facilities, they spend the money, and they enjoy the Hamptons.
Okay.
That's even with, we build new homes. They all only want to come out here for the sun, the restaurants, and enjoy the beach.
Do we have other questions for Mr. Carosa? Do you have any other renderings showing what it would look like from the street?
I don't.
Okay.
But it meets the green requirements for the town, which I know the councilman's very interested in. It'll flow back into we're in the process of getting a power purchase agreement together. If we get the approval, and we'll be able to sell power back to LIPA, plus run the utilities of the
Okay.
complex.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions?
Any other questions?
Well, we've heard a lot, so
It's
it's
the
not
same
that
part.
we
Right.
don't have questions. A lot of them have been answered.
Where did card one go? Somebody take card one? Oh, here it is. Okay, so we have quite a number of people from the public who wishes to be heard. And if there are questions to the two proposals, we can try to get answers during that time. So, again, we afford each speaker 3 minutes to make their comments known. We ask you to try to keep the 3 minutes. The clerk will let you know when you're approaching your last 30 seconds. This is also a hybrid meeting, which means that after those present have been heard, we're going to go to the computer because there might be quite a number of people who are at home or in their offices or other remote locations who want to participate. So I'm going to take those cards in the order that they were heard. And again, I just ask that everybody be respectful. We're all trying to do, what we think is the best thing for the community. And we might have different visions and different ideas, but we have to respect everybody's thoughts. So, okay, Amy Paradise, you're up. And I'm going to say who's on deck too. Lynn Murcott.
Yep, Amy Paradise, and folks, on this one, I'm option 3, green space.
Can I
Penny,
just say, Amy, before you begin, so the reason why I'm saying the person on deck is so that person can queue up behind, so we don't have to wait for that person to be able to get to the podium. I'm sorry.
okay, so Penny Pond is, in its natural state, a tidal marsh. Over the years, in our ignorance, we allowed it to be bulkheaded, and if you look at it, you'll see that you've got green lawn. It's an environmental disaster. It's a cesspool. We allowed them to build motels on it, which are flooding into there. And it's time to stop doing that, get rid of the motels, and turn that all around. Mr. Bouvier, you were on the call with me for the sustainability. Climate change action all over it says we stop building on the waterways. 20 years of building out here on the waterways has been a disaster. I'm sorry for the people who think it's wonderful, it's not. And Mr. Schiavone, you claim to be an environmental champion too. I don't know how you can even consider something like this. During
Thank you.
Hurricane Sandy, the water flooded the houses across the street. I was here, I saw it, and I see what goes on every day. We have to turn this around. The money that it will make will not really have that big of an impact, and all of us as human beings have to stop saying money comes first. The environment comes first, because without it, we're done.
All right, thank you, Amy.
Amy, can I ask you a question, please? Yes. What would you like to see there?
Natural green space.
Total green space?
Let it grow
no-
up with beach grass and things like that. Maybe some ducks can finally have a place to nest. A few turtles. I'm serious. You go
Okay.
down to the bay. There's 24 ducks on the bay now. There used to be hundreds. They're being washed away. And when you bulkhead that and raise the bulkhead and the water comes in and there's a flood, where's the water going? It's going over on the station. You can't mess with things like this. You
So-
just can't do it. It should be absolutely natural.
Okay, thank you.
Would you remove the bulkhead?
Yes,
Okay, and have it be a marsh there?
yes, I would.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Amy. All right, Lynn Murcott will be followed by Lori Verdeschi.
She has, okay, her sister's speaking to.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Lynn Marcotte. I am here to discuss what I would like to see. I might have a suggestion right now, being the second person up. If everybody does 3 minutes, and then the Zoom calls and everything, We're going to be very late here tonight. I thought maybe if you just listen, if everybody raised their hand, maybe we could get rid of this meeting in 3 minutes. Everybody here says they want option number 3, then we can all go home. And I think it's terrible. I mean, my grandparents built out here in 1932. I have been coming out here for 71 years, even though I was a baby, but this place was fantastic. After Labor Day, I mean, every year the streets rolled up and it turned back into being like just little tiny communities. But today, you can't get through town with the traffic coming back and forth. Very happy, I think the roundabout in Macy's and that whole nonsense there, I think that was probably dropped. And if it was, I mean, and the people of Hampton Bays, what we asked for, we want a diner, we want a movie theater. The diner, the taxes on the diner, I've got a friend that's interested, but the taxes on the diner are so much that there's no way that anybody can afford to make that a diner. And yet I think that was the number one thing that Hampton Bays wanted. And we'd love to have the theater stay. Now I realize, like everybody keeps telling me, no they can't. They can rebuild this beautiful theater in Sag Harbor, and they can't lower some taxes on the theater and diner in Hampton Bays so that this is what we can enjoy. I mean, I just feel that we're going wrong way. When you talk about putting more housing, the Rettlers can't even get rid of what they've got over there. I mean, that's not rented out or anything. So we got these, I don't even know how many's there, and I don't understand how the town allowed it. Now, I love what they did with Canoe Place, and I'm very, very happy with them restoring it. And the boathouses, I mean, they're beautiful,
30
but
seconds.
we did not need the amount of boathouses that are there. And I just feel like everything keeps on getting dumped in Hampton Bays, everything when it comes to people and everything else. When you talk about 40,000 these buildings are gonna bring in, I mean, the 3 of us pay more than that in taxes on our homes. So that 40,000 is nothing. I mean, that means nothing to me. Or, my sister, my cousin, my other
3
sister.
minutes.
Okay, so that's basically, I don't think we need not one more person in Hampton Bays. I think that we need stuff for people to enjoy. And if you do this, if you make it condos or whatever, you're making a very big mistake, and you're not listening to what the people of Hampton Bays want.
All right, thank you, Lynn.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lynn. All right, next is Lori Verdeschi, followed by Geraldine Spinella.
I have something to say, but I also have an email written by Ed Romaine. He had asked that we read this short statement. He is the town supervisor of the town of Brookhaven, and he's running for Suffolk County Executive. I join with the Hampton Bays, this is his part. I join with the Hampton Bays Civic Association in urging the Southampton Town Board not to allow development of the Bel Air Motel Cove site. This property should be a passive public park, allowing the residents access to the waterfront. With this site's access to Penny Pond and Shinnecock Bay, it should be used by kayaks, canoes, and paddle boats. Situated in a flood zone, this site should not be used for development. Ed Romaine. I don't know him personally, but I do agree with his opinion.
I do.
Okay.
Probably not, no. Okay, just let me speak.
Okay, so I'm a member of the Hampton Bays Civic Association Subcommittee Advocates for Hampton Bays Waters, and of course a town of Southampton resident. I'd like to add my voice to those advocating for a public park and with bay access for non-motorized boats such as kayaks. You will hear many excellent reasons for that. and especially environmental reasons. That's what we all love about the Hamptons is the environment and the bays and the water, and so that's what it's all about for me. I am frustrated about the way that Hampton Bays seems to be treated in general, because Jay, I listened to what you said in the beginning, and there is a nice long list of things that have been done that I appreciate, and I do appreciate those things. Lately, it feels like, I mean, I have to admit from that planning, that plan that was paid for, that it said that our opinion should be neutralized. I mean, I've been sort of like, ugh,
Me
since
too.
then. I'm sure you are. I'm sure that wasn't
made my
meant to
life
be-
miserable.
I'm
and
sure
it's
it did.
regrettable, and it should have never happened, and I've apologized for it, and it should not have ever been put into that statement by that company, and they were dismissed from working for the town on the project. So.
Right. But it still happened, and it still
It did.
gives
So
me a feeling of
regrettable.
what, ooh, is the town of Southampton watching out for residents of Hampton Bays? Not so sure. Certainly question it. Makes me question it. The town is using town funds to create
30
more
seconds.
high-density housing in a town that already has a much higher population density than any other part of the town of Southampton. In 2020, the population density in Hampton Bays was 1,177 people per square mile. The average for the town of Southampton as a whole is 495 people per square mile. 1,177 versus 495.
3 minutes.
So we want affordable housing, but not in Hampton Bays again. You know, Hampton Bays has I think, seen, enough density. And I would like to ask the board to please try to work on that problem, that imbalance. We're not happy about the density, and we have plenty of it. We don't want more. And I think that's my biggest problem. These were fine proposals. I don't want the town making it happen. I don't, I mean, if on private property people decide to do that for commercial development, it's maybe nothing we can do. This is a perfect opportunity, a rare opportunity for us to leave some space open.
All right, thank you, Lori. Geraldine Spinella, you're next, followed by Gail Murcott.
Well, good evening, Mr. Schneiderman and council members. Can you hear me? I'm better off without a mic.
have to get close.
Okay.
He can adjust.
Okay.
He'll adjust it up.
Can we also,
The
the
voice.
kayaks, not condos, that was part of a speaker from before. We want to keep that open to people.
This?
Yeah, can you just,
We can leave it. It's the
Okay,
same.
if you're
Well,
comfortable
no,
with it.
we're here for the
people
same
watching may want to
purpose.
see the map, so if you could just put it down on the floor, that'd be great.
Someone wants to see this map?
Yes, just you can put it on the floor in front of the podium, whatever.
Okay. I don't think anyone can see that map unless you're right above it.
There you go.
In any case, this is Geraldine Spinella speaking, and I am the president of the Hampton Bays Civic Association. I have a report which is not my report at the moment. It is a report of two of our members who are out of state right now and asked me to present this for them. This is John and Daria Roulette. They're two of our members who organized a wonderful rally in front of the Bel Air site on the 19th and asked me to read this into the record and to also put into the record the 2,000 signatures that we have so far, and they are climbing because all of the petitions are still circulating and the online petition is still racking up numbers every day. So it's probably more than 2,000 now. These and all these signatures are against development of the Bel Air site. So this is their report. Their March 19th gathering at the Bel Air site, in addition to the over 2,000 signatures garnered on petitions, sends a clear message to all of the Southampton Town Board members, not just Jay Schneiderman, including those up for election to their current seats or a higher office. The message is that we want our voices to be heard, and we want our waters protected as supported by the Suffolk Planning Commission and Southampton's own planning board. all recommended that the former Bel Air Cove site not be a dense housing development for a multitude of environmental issues. Do not allow town government to land projects here in Hampton Bays that would never be allowed in Southampton or East Hampton. We're not a dumping ground, and we deserve the same respect as the other villages. Let your voices be heard, protect our bays, and we are offering copies of the Bel Air petitions for the record. This is the top of the petition that was signed by everyone. I'll just read you the wording that is in that as well. And this is a petition to stop the development of the Bel Air property. It says the development of the Bel Air property located in the hamlet of Hampton Bays is being forced upon the residents of the town of Southampton. The purpose of this petition is to state our position, that the residents are adamant that the development of the waterfront Bel Air property be stopped for a myriad of environmental reasons. The people of the town of Southampton have expressed opposition to this development repeatedly. We're in
30
favor of
seconds.
this property being used by all residents of the town of Southampton as a park with a boat launch. This passive use of the property is in line with the recommendation of the Suffolk County Planning Commission. This commission said it discourages development where it is deemed inappropriate within coastal zones, environmentally sensitive areas. Bel Air is at the head of Penny Pond, which is located within an AE flood zone by FEMA. Additionally, wastewater into this property, so close to the bay, has several environmental impacts.
3 minutes.
Go ahead.
Southampton Town Supervisor Jay Schneiderman has listened to, but apparently not heard the people in regard to this development. That was the listening meetings they're talking about. But instead he said that there are only 2 options for the property. Both are housing developments. Mr. Schneiderman will not entertain any conversation about the use of the property as a park for the benefit of all town residents. She lists the 2 proposals on this petition and then says, please choose option 3. And that is green space. And that the last line is just that they are hoping that this housing development issue does not go through and that the property stays a park. I would like to submit all of these signatures for public record. Can I just hand them in? And there will be more. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Geraldine. All right, so Gail Murcott is next, followed by Kevin McAllister.
That'd be me. And I'll move this so it doesn't get in the
This
way.
out of your way as well.
Thank you. I actually think this is a pretty cool poster. My name is Gail Murcott, and I want to say I appreciate, what the town has done before. We have been part of the Civic Association, going to town board meetings. Some of you guys have seen us before, my twin sister and I. Like her, my grandparents built here in 1932 also. And we loved it here. Now we worked up island and everything, but the day September came around, all of a sudden the town, it was a different town. You had the summer and you had things to do, and then all of a sudden September, everything got quiet. Always took my vacation in September. I myself do not believe that we need one more person in Hampton Bays. The housing being put in there, whether it's for senior citizens or, or whatever reason for, I think we need the parks. I went into town 2 weeks ago to get my hair cut. I had to drive around the block 5 times before I could get a parking spot. That's not the Hampton Bays that, that we've known. And, as I said, there are improvements, definitely. The pavilion, over the ocean, a lot of the things that you mentioned.
Thank you.
But I have to seriously ask you, please, look at the people here. Take a look at the petition you've got. Like my sister said, what's a couple of bucks more? That is not going to make or break Hampton Bays, this housing. It's not going to provide what everybody wants or needs. And I think for the most part,
is there are a lot of people sitting not only in front of you, but have signed the petition that they don't want this. They want the open space. They want to sit down at a picnic table, you know, and put their kayak in and just enjoy the day and enjoy what we already have here in Hampton Bays. I mean, you know, I can't say that enough, and when you bring the battery plants in, I'm gonna move my bed right here. So, you know, but I don't know if it's out of line or not, but I would like to ask the board if you could tell me who's in favor of their plan versus the open space for,
We're in the middle of a,
Sorry?
we're in the middle of a public hearing, so that would not be appropriate to vote at this point. Sorry, but that would be voting before we heard from the public, so.
oh, okay, no, I'm,
30 seconds.
No, thank you, Marianne. Thank you. So we're in the middle of a public hearing process. It is not appropriate to say how we would vote before we've heard every voice. So I'm sorry.
okay, I had thought only seeing 2 proposals and not 3 that you had already voted.
No,
I'm sorry.
I have said that I'm open to considering other options and having some sort of process that could maybe review other alternatives. But tonight, we're hearing comment on these 2 proposals, and I know everybody wants to comment on the passive park use, what's what you're calling option 3. And we have a lot of people who want to speak tonight, but it's not for you, I don't believe, to ask each individual board member how they plan on voting, particularly since we haven't even gotten to the end of the public hearing. That's my own personal feeling.
And that's fine. That's why I asked if it was appropriate or not, because you know what, I don't know.
I just feel that would prejudice the hearing.
That's fine. But at some point, will we know that?
Of course. Of course.
Well, I don't think that we're part of your vote, right? Come to sit here while you vote?
We will have a board discussion at some point.
Good.
After we've closed the hearing, we will have a board discussion.
Okay, fair enough.
And
All right, well, I thank you for your time, and I please ask you again, we don't need any more people here in Hampton Bays. We've got everything we need. We've been here, most of us, forever, and we have everything that we need right here for a beautiful community. I mean, I live right off Newtown Road. You know, I don't know what's going to happen to me and half of my family that's buried in the backyard when a 200-room hotel and casino or whatever goes up on the bluffs, because that backs my backyard. So, you know, it seems that just everything's coming our way, and it's not what we want. Some things we won't be able to stop, others that we can. We'll give up dinner and we'll be sitting here till midnight.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Kevin, you're next, followed by Bill Pell.
Need a little space. Thank you, Supervisor. Good evening, Town Board. My name is Kevin McAllister. I'm founder of Defend H2O. March marks 25 years since my return to Long Island and really taking on work from the non-government sector as a clean water advocate. The board's aware of my training in coastal zone management. By way of this parcel, and my interest, of course, is public access and water protection. The board may not be aware of this, but when the parcel was acquired by the town, I was queried by the local press as to my impressions. I thought it was a great acquisition, removing probably very likely a failing septic system, high water table in that area, and eliminating neighborhood blight. So it was a very positive endeavor. I was not sure of the pot of money that it was purchased in. So I'll say fast forward as these proposals are introduced. You know, I can certainly appreciate the board's concern about economic infusion and not to drain Hampton Bays, of course. But I think ultimately, you know, the best use is a passive park in this area for a number of reasons. You know, obviously this acre plus parcel, you know, you'd have to raise the buildings, but to create some real open space, canopy trees, some benches, kayak rack, I would urge that, and it lends itself perfectly to treating stormwater, that load that comes from west to east down Shinnecock, can be diverted into this parcel, so you are treating water before it enters Penny Pond. We've heard talk about restoring and reconstructing a bulkhead. Clearly, this is dilapidated and a low sill, so the opportunity to restore wetland fringe in this area certainly lends itself. I think, again, with the rare, or I should say post-COVID, and we know this, I mean, we've seen the gold rush out here, we've seen parcels get subdivided, and we've seen waterfront parcels absolutely disappear. So it's a high commodity, it's a rare asset for this town. I urge you to hold on to every square meter that you have. In this instance, really revisit, rethink the intentions here, good intentions, but certainly the benefits, the environmental benefits of a passive park in this area, again at the headwaters.
30 seconds.
And while we talk about, and you heard climate change mentioned a few times, I mean, we need every, again, square meter to become a giant sponge in this area to absorb surge and rising waters as they come. Lastly, you know, the discussion about IA systems on site with the redevelopment, that's all well and good. But, you know, nitrogen from X number of units is still a load in a poorly flushed area that if we can remove it and permanently remove it, that's a positive thing. So
3 minutes.
again, thank you.
Kevin, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do you think, with your background, do you think that this could be a viable site for aquaculture, like a shellfish hatchery? I know East Hampton Town has a shellfish hatchery.
Perhaps, but I would caution the board into the scale of shellfish. I mean, we're talking some oyster bars out there. It's a positive endeavor, but to, you know, ultimately turn it into, I'll say, high activity area, it would probably diverge from the passive use of the area. And then let's be clear, even shellfish, there is a component that, you know, there is a waste component to shellfish that we have to be conscious of.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks so much.
All right, Bill, before you speak, let me see who's on deck. Lori Werner is next.
Bill Pelt, Southampton Town Trustee, Secretary, and Treasurer. I'm also here with Scott Harwitz, President. Being a trustee for 14 years is one of the most important things we have learned, that when you have waterfront property, you don't give it away. You don't sell it. You keep it. You protect it. The trustees have fought over and over again in court to protect our waterfront property. I've been after Jay for some time now for us to make a deal with the trustees to get this piece of property. There's so many opportunities we could do with that. Make it a park, make it a hatchery. We could put our office down there, but whatever we do, you don't want to sell it to a developer. These guys, they have a wonderful plan, but it's in the wrong place. You know, it's like Hampton Bays doesn't want to lose another access to the water. There's more people, you have to protect your access. It's like losing Collins and Jackson Skidmore's, and the two oldest stores in Hampton Bays. You lose that, then you have all new stores. You have no one left who can remember the bakery next to where Gators was, or where Leggett's was originally was. And that's what you're losing. When you lose access, you lose the availability for people to go to the water and come out here and do it. You can make a beautiful park, kayak thing, oyster hatchery. You can put a food truck there. There's so many opportunities you can do there, but don't sell it. Keep it. Either give it to the trustees or make a deal with the trustees. We'll somehow buy it, but keep it in the inventory with our other properties so we can protect it for the future of Hampton Bays and the people of Southampton Town. I think Scott has a few words he wants to say too.
Jay, you know, and members of the town board, you know, we're at a very
Scott,
unique...
just we know who you are, but just say for the record.
I'm Scott Horowitz, President of the Southampton Town Trustees. Members of the town board, Mr. Supervisor, I mean, you and I are at a very unique point in time in history right now, being the leaders of both of these boards in terms of where we go in the future. And I think this is a classic golden opportunity where we can work together and do something really good for the environment, and for the people of Southampton Town. I mean, there's a lot of great ideas here from folks, but there's a time and a place for everything, and I think that the time and the place is more in line with this passive park idea for the environment. Shellfish hatchery is a great idea. I think it would be great for the trustees in the town to have something like that in our township. That would be fabulous. We'd love to collaborate and work with the town board on this. You know, I've learned, as I've said, as we all have learned in public service, it's important to listen to people when they come out with this type of information and in this magnitude. Whatever it is that we can do, we own that property next to it. We would like to clean that up. We would like to see it be an active area where people can go kayaking and really get to that waterfront. And, you know, whatever we can do to work together. It's a unique time in history. Nothing has been made decision-wise yet, and I really think that we need to take a pause and see if there's some other aspect that could work out better for the people of Hampton Bays, for the town, and for the trustees, and at the end of the day, for quality of life of everybody throughout the entire township. So whatever we can do at our board level to try and facilitate it, I agree with Kevin McAllister. I agree with Ed Romaine. That's really, I think, the direction would be better suited for our community, so.
Scott, can I ask you a question too? So, and Bill, you could maybe just point out the piece that you guys currently own there, the long rectangle. Yeah, that's it, right?
Yeah, actually, right here, 3 feet of this property, or 4 feet, most of this property where the bulkhead is on trustee property. So they would have to actually move their bulkhead back or keep this open to the people of Hampton Bays for total access.
So all right, so the long rectangle now,
This is the trustees.
now, are you providing public access now from that property?
We have been trying over the years to do it, but we never have had enough funding to do it.
Are you still leasing it for parking
Wait,
to the
no,
We haven't leased it in probably 4 or 5 years.
Right, and as a matter of
We
fact.
just did it 1 year, that was it.
Right, and as a matter of fact, you know, before we entered into any further commercial leases relative to that property in that area, we held a public hearing and we had a similar type of response. Therefore, we did not enter into any commercial agreement for that. And I think the wishes would be to clean that area up and make it for everybody to utilize to get down to the water. So if there's a way that we can work together on a project like this, you know, at the end of the day, a lot of people pointed out that maybe the benefits aren't that great when you collaboratively figure out how much we all pay and what price can you put on quality of life issues. So I really think we can add to the quality of life for this community by.
Would you be looking to remove the bulkhead on your property
Well,
and this property?
I don't think we could, you couldn't, I think that you'd
Because there
still
was
have
some
to.
talk tonight
Yeah,
about
we would actually
a
have.
marsh.
Yeah, we would actually have to, I mean, can I finish this?
Yeah.
In order to do that, you have to put a retaining wall here, and we would have to hire a good engineer, architect, to design it, okay? A low sill bulkhead with a walkway for kayaks and boat access. It's feasible to do it there. It would be a good thing. We're right now in the process of talking to down here at Concord Marina. They're gonna put one in, a low sill bulkhead. So we have done in other areas in the town. They do work, and marsh wetlands do go behind them. This would be a good place. Then we would have to landscape this with native plants so to keep the runoff from going into it.
And did I understand that you'd be willing to make the town whole over time through some sort of?
We are willing to sit down and work out with any kind of proposal, if it's feasible for both of us, and bring it back to the Hampton Bays people and the town people. We're willing to do. We're willing to sit down and talk.
Did you say you want to build an office there?
No, if we had to, you know, but.
I'm just asking because you brought it up.
Yeah, we could if we had to, but it's not, that's one of the thoughts.
I think the reality is, and I think Kevin had touched on it, and that is that what pot of money are these properties being purchased from? I mean, Community Preservation Fund obviously is a much wealthier pot of money than the Board of Trustees who, you know, duct tape everything and you know, we do the best we can. Exactly, we do the best we can with very little resources, as you're aware, as we're trying to get the trustees on solid ground in perpetuity. So there has to be a way where, you know, 10+ elected officials could get together and listen to the community and figure out what's going to make the most sense over the long haul for this community and this piece of property, okay?
do you all currently allow public access on your property right now?
100%.
100%.
So tomorrow morning, I could go down with my
We go there
kayak?
right now.
Yeah. We actually,
Is there a ladder there?
No.
It's in need of some help.
I'm just curious, because
It's
it's
in-
the first I'm hearing of this from you
Yeah.
here, which is great, thank you. But the public can use it now.
The public can use it. We sometimes
It's
are
just
abused there, quite
dangerous.
frankly. I'm not very happy about that. We do get abused over there. People
You-
leaving things there
okay.
overnight and whatnot, and garbage getting dumped there. So I'm not very happy about that, and I want that remedied immediately.
Yeah.
I think it should be an asset to a community, not a liability. And I just, at this point in time in history, with where we're at, tax district implementation and everything, the amount of talent and the amount of care for our community and the environment that's in the room, we should be able to figure this out, okay?
Scott,
We as a board
I'm
will
just
work with
asking
you.
if you have public access
We
on this property.
absolutely do. We're all
Okay,
for public
thank you.
access, Mr. Councilman Scavone, we are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
You could contact us, you
Yeah.
know.
yeah, I have your number.
Yeah, you know where to find us. Thank you again. We look forward to sitting down and talk to you over
Yes.
our new piece of
As
property.
they say, we couldn't sneak up on a bed always.
Yes.
All right, so Laura, you're next, followed by Marion Bowden.
Good evening, my name is Lori Werner. I'm a 50-year, year-round resident of Hampton Bays. And I'm just thinking of a lot of things. I mean, sure, I don't want any more people anyway, but that's gonna happen. But it doesn't have to happen there. 4 years ago, we had a large group of people in Hampton Bays, not as many as now, but a very large group of people in Hampton Bays. As a matter of fact, I was quoted in Newsday against purchasing this property for development. We came up, one after the other, after the other, after the other, and we said, if we need to purchase this property, we also said, we don't think the town should become landlords and real estate business, but we said, if we're gonna purchase it, why can't we use community preservation funds and turn it into a park? And we were just nixed out. That was 4 years ago. And now look where we are. You're not talking about 50 or 100 people. You're talking about thousands of people have signed petitions. I mean, you saw me, Rick. You saw me at the youth pancake breakfast. All I have to do is take the petition out, and pages were signed. I think every single person at the senior center signed it, literally. I mean, I don't think I've spoken to one person that is for this. They're just not. I mean, and I can't, my mind just can't fathom it. You know, Tommy, you were wonderful, and I want to thank you so much for fixing the flooding on King Street. You were wonderful, and I owe you. I have a tiny 700 square foot house that I bought when I was 29 years old and had to fight the banks because they, in quotes, did not grant mortgages to single women in '77. But my little 700 square foot house is on practically as much as this property is. You've seen my property, Tommy. I can't imagine why we have to cram everybody in there. I mean, there's no room. We need water. We need it desperately. I mean, and listen, please, board, listen. You're not just talking about people that want to get up here and be redundant about how we think. We're talking about the Southampton Town Planning Board says no. The Suffolk County Planning Board says no. Our trustees, and they were, well, I don't want to get anybody in trouble, they were at our protest. They're people that know the water. I don't know nitrogen and chemicals. All I know is that this is not the place for it.
30 seconds.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Marion Bowden, followed by Karen Mercat.
First of all, the TV isn't reflecting it, but the room is filled, and we have an overflow crowd next door, so I'd like to say hi to those people who are sitting next door. I think they're banging on. Hi, guys. Thanks for your patience. I also, Jay, would like to address, I didn't say good evening, I'm sorry. I'd like to address your preamble, or whatever I'm calling it. First of all, I was under the impression that COVID was pretty much responsible for the rising value of real estate in the town of Southampton, and not you. So forgive me if I'm wrong. And secondly, I also appreciate the improvements that have been made, which some people have said. But these were made for people in the town of Southampton, and it wasn't your money. It was my money and their money and everybody's money that paid for this. So I'd be a little reluctant to take all the credit for the improvements. I put a note to myself, act curious and not snarky, and I know already. I blew it at hello, as they did in that movie. Anyway, since 2018, the Civic Association, the Planning Board, and Suffolk County all agree that developing the Bel Air property is not the wisest move, a bad idea. Now, we've spoken in Town Hall now and before. We've sent letters, we've submitted petitions, and a few other things. And I think the turnout shows the level of interest and concern. And I guess I'm here tonight, and I say we should be speaking volumes. Are we doing something wrong? Like, after all of that, Tommy John, is there something we're missing? I know you can't say how you're going to vote, but after petitions and marches and rallies and appearances in Town Hall, what are we doing wrong that you guys haven't come to the table with us?
Oh, you want me to answer?
Yeah, it's not a rhetorical question, and I'll go right down the line anyway.
I don't know.
What?
I said skywriting, but that was snarky. Sorry.
My hearing aids are being repaired at Costco, so I'm missing snarky remarks tonight. I'm not the only on the giving end. What?
Marion, it's good to see you. So no, I really wouldn't say anything more.
I mean, are we missing something? It seems like it should be a slam dunk. Doesn't it? After petitions and rallies and appearances in Town Hall and letters to the editor. By the way, everybody's calling me Madonna or Cher after the letter that says losing Marion. I don't need my last name anymore. Isn't that exciting? What do you say, Tommy John?
Okay. I will congratulate the people of Hampton Bays on getting a 37.2% increase in the governor's budget for your school, and I credit the school district considerably for that. And I think that has colored this conversation a little bit because we really were looking at school taxes in Hampton Bays, which we heard loud and clear years ago. Now that that it has changed. But as far as missing anything, I did say earlier skywriting. I was trying to be funny, but it probably wasn't.
Okay, you're entitled. Okay, thank you. John, what do you have to say? Have we missed anything?
Okay.
Marion, I know you well, but this is not the forum, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but
I'm not going to communicate.
I think we're curious to know where you people stand before the day of the vote.
You asked me a question, and you're asking us to speak. And I'm here to listen to everybody. I hear everything that you're saying.
Have you listened? Do you think you've sincerely listened?
I think I sincerely have
Rick,
listened.
have you sincerely listened? Do you
Absolutely.
believe?
I mean, that's the task that we're always, I don't care what it is. I sit here, I live in the town, I hear everybody. I see the petition. Thank you for bringing it to us tonight. I read the papers. I talk to dozens and dozens of other people who have a differing view. And I put all that together, and at the end of it, I make a decision on that basis.
You see, that's what I'd like to know about the dozens and dozens, because...
So there are people who say we don't need another park.
Well, it's not.
They're not here because they're just not here. So that's what I'm saying. But that's why I appreciate that you're here, and I've told people over and over at the CAC meetings and everything that you need to come. This is the process that we go through. So I appreciate everybody being here. I appreciate the emails.
Okay, thank you.
But I'm saying this is the process that we go
Yeah.
through.
But I also want to confirm what Lori said. I have yet to meet one person, and people will argue with me, they'll be honest. They really will.
Stop in tomorrow.
Who's for building on this piece of property? Not one.
That's not the comment. I get
Well,
the comment that we don't need another park.
Well, yeah, but it's a different kind of park.
It is,
so.
and that's what
Cindy, okay, thank you,
So that's what
Cindy.
we're going through the
I know
process.
my 3 minutes are probably up, Cindy.
I've told you online where I stand. I mean, my stance was in my August vote last year, so.
Okay. And can you tell people what the August vote was
I
last
voted
year?
no on issuing the RFP for this project.
Okay. Cindy voted no for the RFP on the project. Yay, Cindy. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, and good night.
All right, thank you, Marion. So Karen Murcott is next, followed by Ray D'Angelo.
Anyway, maybe you've seen the poster.
Yeah, that left leg is,
We really need more kayak room.
okay.
How many meerkats are there?
Yeah, really.
I'm sorry?
How many, are you related to all the other meerkats?
I am. So
Okay.
I won't go in about my grandparents living here and all that, because I'm just not a talker.
How many
like
are
they
there?
We want a
There are
flow
a lot
chart.
of us. There are enough. Actually, the 2,000 votes.
They're all
Anyway,
That's
please do the right thing.
If you could
Do
state
what-
your name for the record,
Oh, I'm
though,
so
please.
sorry. Karen Murcott.
Thank you.
Please do the right thing. An awful lot of us want to see kayaks over condos. It's just no more people. Just, I'm going to be short and sweet because it's going to be a long night. Okay? Option 3, please.
All right, Raymond D'Angelo. And Ray, you are followed by, Carvel is the last name. Is it Donna or Deanna?
Deanna, Diane or Diana?
She just went to the ladies' room.
All right, well, Ray stall for a while. That won't be a problem for you, right?
Mr. Schneiderman, I was just going to say very nice things about you.
Really?
Yeah, well, I was going to tell you that when you leave office, you should become a science fiction writer. You know, first
That's not particularly
of
nice.
all, COVID raised our prices, the housing.
I'm sure all the work I've done for 7 years has done nothing for Hampton Bays, so, in your mind, so.
Well, no, I think
It's
you
a lot-
did
it's an
some things
awful
for
lot of
Hampton
work.
Bays and everything.
We
and-
made a lot of decisions that I think were in
Mr.
the community
Schneiderman,
benefit.
I'm not here to argue with you, okay?
All right, but you can try to say that I had nothing to do with anything, if that's, it's all
Well,
COVID.
you had to
And
do
You
something.
know what, let it be COVID.
Well, you had to
I
do
don't
s-
need the credit for it, so go ahead.
Well, listen, I'm going to give you some credit. You signed the contract that neutralized us. You
There you
purged the
go.
CAC. You did a lot of things for us, and for me particularly. Yes, you did. I agree. I want to make you feel good. You had the police at the,
So it's a love
you had the
fest.
police at our civic association meeting. They worked for you. Yes, you did a lot of things for us. I agree with that. I really want to address the people here tonight. I think it's tremendous that you came out here tonight. We don't have a village, we don't have a mayor to advocate for us. This is a watershed event for us. We're finally, showing what we're about, and we're pushing back on this group of people here that they're supposed to look out for us, who they don't, and the people next door. So we have a tremendous amount here. I don't know who the people Rick talks to, but everybody I talk to doesn't want this thing. Another point I want to make is, thank you. Another point I wanted to make is that I was listening to the open thing about you were saying that property values have gone up 2-3% in Hampton Bays. And I agree that, 2 and 3 times in Hampton
2 or 3
Bays.
times, yeah.
So you bought the property there 4 years ago for $1 million. Now, I've been reading in the paper, and also it's been published, that you want to sell it for $1.5 million. Doesn't that sound a little cheap to you? Shouldn't it be more in the neighborhood of $3 million, or $3.5 million, if it went up 2 times 3? I think this is a sweetheart deal for these guys over here, and it's at our expense. It's, this is, you're supposed to do the will of the people. Cindy is the only one that seems to want to do that. We want this park. It's not another park. It's waterfront property. What other municipality or government entity gives up waterfront property? We need this park. We have very limited access, believe it or not, to the waters around Hampton Bays. So this is very important for us. And look at the turnouts we're having now. You ignore this, okay. You ignore us at your own risk. You even said that the votes are in Hampton Bays. I know the money's over in Sag Harbor, but the votes are by us. And now we're going to exercise those votes. So, if you want to ignore us, it's at your own risk. That's, another thing I want to bring up is when we originally, this is going back 4 years ago, we came here, the Civic wanted the Community Preservation Fund to buy this property. I was the chairman of the CAC. I urged you to buy the property, the Community Preservation Fund. This all could have been avoided. The only reason why you went ahead was because you wanted to do it. Nobody else in the community seemed to want it. And now we have this issue. Now you want to make a deal and enrich these guys with a deal at our expense of property that belongs to us. It doesn't belong to the town or the trustees. It belongs to us. The trustees' property belongs to us. You got to remember that. It's supposed to be the will of the people. We're a republic. You're supposed to represent us and do what we want. And I have to tell you, you might be upset with us, but democracy is messy. The tyranny is nice and neat. You talk and then we have to listen, and which has been really what's going on here. So I urge you to do the will of the people and make this a green area and make it access for the public. Thank you.
All right, so.
She's back.
All right, so yeah, is it Diana?
Yes.
Yes, Diana Carvel.
Hi, how are you?
And followed by Bob Tyson.
Mr. Schneiderman and board, I just am here for the first time. Oh, sorry. Now you can? Okay.
You don't have to get that close.
We're very weird.
That's your conscience.
That is something like that.
Voice from beyond.
I've lived out here in Sag Harbor mainly for over 35 years, and I want to bring to your attention just something that you mentioned or the developers mentioned, and I'm certainly not against developing. I'm a builder myself. I live on the waterfront in Hampton Bays. Somebody mentioned, I don't know which developer, that it'll bring more tourists to Hampton Bays, building any one of these projects. We don't have any tourists. Sag Harbor has tourists. West Hampton Village has tourists. I'm going to be perfectly frank with you. We don't have tourists. I'm only living in Hampton Bays 2 years, and I go to town every day, and I don't see one tourist.
No, exactly.
I'll be very honest. That's my first thing. I wasn't going to speak. I was going to just tell you to throw the card away. But I live on a half acre on the water. It gets very low tide there as well, by the way, and I'll address that in one of my statements here. Even $45,000 in tax revenue is not a lot of money. I pay almost half that for an 852 square foot house. That's 100 years old. Almost half of that. So that's a financial end that I look at all the time when I'm thinking about waterfront property and taxes. The next thing that I wrote, I'll be quick, is you know, as developers, your projects are going to cost much more than you project. They always do. Always do. So that means the taxes should be much, much higher, because those prices will be up by the time people move into both projects. And I think also you talked about boat slips with the senior development, which there's nothing wrong with that idea either for seniors, but there's going to be no revenue from taxes for seniors. They're all under enhanced star.
Right, that calculation was from the sole assessor, roughly 45,000 from that.
Not really right.
From the 16 units.
The other thing is, even with the boat slips in the senior project, low tide comes there. You can't even have a boat outside the bulkhead. I live on that same piece of water. You can't put a boat there, even if you have a bulkhead. Can't get it out of the sand. So those are my issues as a person who's lived out here for many years as well. And I've only lived on the waterfront, and I know what happens to waterfront. And I've seen it. I've lived in Sag Harbor on the waterfront, Mattatuck on the waterfront, and now Hampton Bays. I like it here. I'd like to see more tourists if that was possible. I don't know how it would. That's not going to happen with seniors, for sure. So that's my statement.
All right, Bob Tyson, you're next, followed by Ellen Owens.
While I'm getting ready here, I'd just like to say that I second all of the reasons why this shouldn't happen, okay, as proposed. I'm going to try a different approach. Good evening, Mr. Supervisor, board members. I want to thank you for the service to our community that you guys provide every day, okay? I believe that you have the best interests of the town at heart.
Thank you.
And if I may, I would like to digress and share a personal experience. I'm a retired teacher and coach. I love teaching, I love coaching. I care for my students, a lot like this board cares for the constituents of their town. I consider myself an educator as well as a shepherd. More than a few years ago, when I was coaching high school soccer, I had what I knew was going to be a very successful team. I'm a student of the game. I was familiar with international football teams, both national and club. I was familiar with their names and their uniforms. I mused over improving the appearance of my team. We had home whites, road blues, blue socks, which we call hose. I'm not going to use that word. I thought that new socks would make a statement. I had not yet sent a letter to our opponents advising them of what our uniforms look like. It's important to note that the season had not yet started. It was not too late to make a change. In offering these socks, I had nothing but good intentions. But when sharing my idea and showing the team a sample of the socks, I looked into faces that were aghast. A lot like these folk here. My decision was unanimously unpopular.
30 seconds.
I can't read any faster, I beg your pardon.
Let's keep going, Bob.
My decision was unanimously unpopular. I recognized that my idea was not well received. This room is a reminder of me of that moment. I determined that forcing my will to wear these unpopular socks would be a mistake. I knew that I would lose the respect of the team. I needed to fix that mistake, and I did. The story has a happy ending. We finished the season undefeated as league champions, and I was happy our journey together was successful. And that's, of course, what is important, okay? Not my idea of condos, excuse me, I mean socks. Please, that was a Freudian slip, forgive me, okay? I recognize your good intentions. We're fortunate that the season has not started. Please do not make us wear those socks.
Bob,
It is not too late. There's still time. Please preserve this land. Please preserve it for community use. I thank you.
Thank you. All right, Ellen Owens, followed by Michael Iacilli.
Good evening. My name is Ellen Maloney Owens, and I live in Hampton Bays. And I want to say that establishing parks is not like establishing bridges and houses. You don't get to put your name on them usually. But when we think of our forefathers who saved Central Park, Prospect Park, Eisenhower Park, there's no way we can thank them for putting the park and the people above themselves. And now we're looking at what might be considered a boutique park, and maybe it won't have your names on it, but it will be your legacy, the legacy that your families will remember that you made it possible. And I'm asking you, make that a legacy for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so Michael, you're followed by Ann Capella?
Thank you.
Coppola, thank you.
Good evening. Can you all hear me? Yes. Okay. Hello, my name is Michael Anthony Iacilli, and I'm from Sag Harbor, New York. And if you don't know, I am running for town board. And I oppose the motel proposal. Let me begin by stating that the supervisor's intention is in the right place. You know, under the current leadership, we do have a AAA bond rating. You know, and identifying this parcel as something that would be revenue generating, I think is smart. It's reasonable, right? Something that could keep our town whole and ensure the fiscal soundness. You know, you look at other municipalities around our region and they are in precarious predicaments, but not Southampton, okay? And that is a reflection of the town board and Jay, your leadership.
Thank you.
However, I think the public has weighed in, and you know, I think there is clear reason to listen. I hear far too many people expressing fear, and that's across political affiliation, NIMBY or YIMBY, that fear overdevelopment, and that, you know, Hampton Bays is getting dumped on. I keep hearing that over and over again. Smart development or redevelopment is good, and can promise prosperity when done right. I don't oppose reasonable development plans that enhance our downtowns and provide equitable opportunities for workers. But what I can say is that unchecked overdevelopment amplifies and harms folks by speeding up climate change, the contamination of our waters, which can harm our sole source aquifer, especially at a time when we need to improve our septic systems across the county. And it harms natural habitats and increases pollution of our waterways and our soil. Unfettered development also disproportionately hurts working class folks, minorities, and indigenous groups. And want to say that we've seen this administration certainly hold back massive development more than previous administrations, and I commend the administration. That said, all people deserve to turn on the faucet and have clean water, as these signs indicate. Not just, you know, Sag Harbor, not just Bridgehampton, but Hampton Bays too. I think there is a way forward. And that way forward that I think we could achieve both what the supervisor intends, which is something that generates revenue, and what the community wants, which is a park. Looking to Brookhaven Town, and I know that Supervisor Romaine was mentioned, let's look to Cedar Beach as a model. Cedar Beach is a unique opportunity because it is a park, it's a beach, has lots of different amenities. A lot of people love going there, primarily because they have like a little bar and concession stand where people can go spend time with their families at the beach, but also pay for a fun evening, listening to a comedian, listening to a band. I think Southampton can do something similar. We could have a park. Let me just wrap up.
Yes, go ahead.
Southampton can do something similar. We can have a park in this location with a variety of functions and also invite a vendor that provides desired services, whether that be a kayak rental, concessions, or what have you. I think a park is very important. I'd love to continue to hear more about what the community has to say. But what I definitely think is that we need to listen to the people in this particular scenario and ensure that there is a decent quality of life for all in Southampton Town. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Ann Coppola, followed by Dolores Riley.
Hi, Ann Coppola.
Coppola.
The Suffolk County Planning Board, their very last issue in their resolution against development is a possible template for future development of blighted coastal sites. And I'm concerned about that. One of the principles, I don't know if it's Murphy's or Peters, says if it can happen, it will. So let's be concerned. Joni Mitchell says, tear up paradise, put up a parking lot. Well, Joni, board, all of us, we have a chance to tear down the development and let paradise come back again.
Okay, Dolores, you are next, followed by Elizabeth Hook.
Hi, I'm Dolores Riley. I live in Hampton Bays. When I was first listening to the proposals about option 1 and option 2, I didn't really get option 1 because I thought, well, the rich people have enough of their stuff. And then when you got to option 2, I'm very much in favor of senior housing, probably because I'm a senior as part of that. But having listened to all of you guys, and I know we don't want more huge population, but 16 seniors, 32 if they're lucky enough to have some spouses, I don't think of that as like adding a huge population to Hampton Bays. And when I heard 400 and something thousand, I thought, wow, that might be actually something that my friends can afford. But the thing that really stuck in the back of my head is on Channel 22 a few weeks ago, there was an 8th grader, I'm sorry, I do not know his name, he was from Sag Harbor. He talked beautifully, eloquently about leaving natural waterways. It just, you guys were all great and everybody listened to him, but he just had me by the heart. And I don't know, would I be more in favor of, I love whoever spoke first, the first woman who spoke about the ducks. I would like the ducks to have somewhere that they can go. But I also like the idea of the park and maybe like a couple of food trucks. And I don't know how much money that would bring in. You said that, you know, the seniors living there would bring in tax money. So, you know, I feel bad for the seniors. And I think you guys should work on more senior housing. But I have to agree with that young man and the people here who have spoken so eloquently that our water space, our access to our water is sacred. And it's something that we're so lucky to have. You know, you drive by and we see a lot of water, but, you know, and I don't kayak, it hurts my back. But I think that I would have to go with the water thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Elizabeth Hook is next, followed by Mary Pizan.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Hook. I am on the board of directors for the Hampton Bays Civic Association, and I'd like to read a letter on behalf of the Hampton Bays Civic Association to the board about this topic. But before I turn to that, I would like to tell these developers, your plans are not the problem. The problem is the location. And, you know, I agree with whoever it was who said, nice plans, wrong place. And that's the concern that the Civic has had for more than 4 years. So, on behalf of the Hampton Bays Civic Association, I write to inform the Southampton Town Board of the HBCA's continuing complete opposition to any type of housing development at 20 Shinnecock Road, the site of the former Bel Air Cove Motel. HBCA's membership is adamantly opposed to any use of the property other than passive use as a waterfront park from which kayaks, canoes, and paddleboards can be launched into Penny Pond. This desire on the part of Hampton Bays residents has been repeatedly expressed to the town board since before its adoption of the Hampton Bays Waterfront Revitalization Plan, yet the town board has seen fit to completely ignore it. In response, the town board has offered no logical basis for proceeding with its ill-conceived plan to build housing on the 1.4-acre site that is in a FEMA flood zone. The town board is proceeding with its housing in spite of the overwhelming opposition of not only Hampton Bays residents, but experts in government agencies who have reviewed the town's proposed development schemes. In October 2018, representatives of the HBCA and the Hampton Bays Citizens Advisory Committee urged the town, excuse me, urged the town board to purchase the property with CPF funds. In November 2018, Kevin McAllister of the organization Defend H2O spoke in favor of the acquisition of the property for flood attenuations and urged against development and in favor of public access rain gardens. In December 2018 and throughout early 2019, more residents urged the town to buy the property through the CPF. In January 2019, Mary Wilson, the manager of the CPF, testified that the property was appropriate to be added to the wetland preservation target area, as well as the village and hamlet greens, parks, recreation, and open space target areas. Wilson urged that the site be used for passive recreation or park use. Robert Anrig, the chair of the CPF Advisory Committee, reiterated the committee's opinion that the property should be restored and used as a park, and individually supported purchase of the site by CPF. Andrea Spilka, director of the Southampton Town Civic Coalition, requested that the site be purchased by the CPF because redevelopment would be contrary to the climate change protection goal of limiting or prohibiting waterfront development. In March 2019, the Suffolk County Planning Commission adopted its staff report, which stated that it disapproved of the town's plan because it was, quote, an unwarranted and over-intensification of the use of the premises. Noting that the site's location is in a flood zone located on the waterfront of Penny Pond, the staff report stated that it could be inundated during a severe storm, and we have seen those more and more recently. That's my aside. The staff report concluded that due to the location of the site, it was more suited to passive park-like uses, including stormwater absorption, public water access, kayak launching, picnicking, and other passive recreation that is water-dependent, related, or enhanced, rather than the recreation of a motel use or the creation of a condominium development at the site.
30 seconds.
I'm speaking on behalf of an association, so can I have the 5 minutes?
I'll give you another minute, Liz.
Okay. At its meeting in March 2019, the Southampton Town Planning Board passed a resolution in which it stated that a majority of the board felt that there was more merit to the CPF purchase. Now, 4 years later, the situation is unchanged. Hampton Bays residents have made their desires abundantly clear. A petition demanding that the site be used for passive recreation has been signed by more than 2,000 residents, more than the number of residents who responded to the town's survey concerning the revitalization of downtown Hampton Bays. For the first time ever, on March 19, 2023, Hampton Bays residents came out in support of a protest rally against the use of the site for development. It is beyond understanding as to why the town board, who are officials elected by the residents of Southampton, are so determined to ignore the wishes of their constituents. There is no support for the town board's plan to develop this property. HBCA calls upon the town board to accede to the wishes of the hamlet's residents.
Thank you. All right, Mary, you're next, followed by, is it Donner Bruce or Bruce Donner? Okay, Mary, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Mary Paysan. I live in Hampton Bays. Here we are again on the Bel Air. One thing I want to talk about is tourism. I understand the desire to bring tourism to Hampton Bays, but I don't know, maybe you guys don't get out of town much, but what brings people to towns are recreational opportunities, bike paths, kayak launches. That's what makes people want to come somewhere, not necessarily a hotel. As you guys go ahead, just so you know, me, Liz, and I, and our expert wastewater engineer, who's not here tonight, are the three people that brought the Article 78 against the town. So we have a lot of information related to the town's justifications, the town's documents, and the town's defenses to its actions as stated in the opposition papers. And I'd like to suggest that all of you, regardless of where you voted the last time or if this is your first time to vote, actually take a really good look at some of these documents and some of the arguments that the town has made. I'm going to start with the fact that the town, as you all, they should know, is not allowed to buy property except for a public purpose. So in this case, the town relied on the New York State Urban Development Law, which I don't know if people are familiar with. I am from working for the city. Usually, municipality creates an urban development corporation. They get an approval by the state. They get grants from the state. Someone used the phrase unchecked plan here, and this is really an unchecked plan because whether right or wrong, nothing went to the state. So nobody knows anything. This is all the town's plan. Since I worked for the government, I actually thought, well, lucky legal find, the urban development law. I mean, you tried 3 times to buy the property. Those attempts failed. One was the local development corporation. Then you found the urban development law. But, you know, if you really read the law, you know, there's a really strong argument that this is not what that law intended, and you really don't have the authority to use this property the way you plan. And assuming arguendo that your attorney has a different opinion, once you rely on a law to get authority to do something, you're supposed to follow the law. But you're not really following the law. I mean, you can look at the RFP and you can look at the documents. I don't have more than 3 minutes to go into a lot of details.
30 seconds.
See, the EAF was, I'm going to sum it up in not a pleasant way. The EAF was a joke. Janice mentioned the judge's decision on SECRA. The judge also said this was an aspirational goal, meaning you don't know what you're doing. We thought that was funny, but really, I don't think you do. And your attitude on the environmental assessment form, I'm really concerned because, just so you know, you all approved that negative declaration. That document wasn't even signed. Nobody took responsible for that document. So you took, I'm running for office, I'm staying up for a minute. I know. I'm an organization of left-handed Marys. So, I mean, I think, you know, you got to take that seriously. That was not taken seriously. Answered no to every question and then didn't even bother to sign it. Does anybody read this stuff? I mean, I don't know how you guys could have voted for a negative declaration. Where I worked, if document wasn't signed, it meant it's not a final document, and the person who's supposed to sign it didn't want to sign it. Every planning document that I look at, you look at the same general belt and suspenders paragraph from the 1999 plan, which is basically mirroring the 1970 plan. You don't look at all at the new stuff that you yourselves passed. So we have in this town, in case you didn't realize, you guys, the board, not individually this board, in 2016 passed the Coastal Resources Water Protection Plan. That's part of our comprehensive plan, and you didn't even consider it. And with all due respect to your proposals, they're not consistent with it either. I mean, that plan talks about preserving water and creating waterfront access. You're violating that plan completely. The last thing I want to say is that you're trying to squeeze in the Suffolk County health regs, loopholes, whatever. We'll have to look at it. All of your websites, whether you are just elected, were elected in the past, have been elected multiple times, you all, for the most part, pat yourselves on the back for your commitment to water quality and the environment. And I don't see how you can make a decision to build hotels there or develop that piece of property in light of your personal commitments. And no offense, but kind of the bad job that was done defending your actions in the first place.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, is it Bruce? Bruce, sorry. Bruce Donner, and
Bruce
then...
Donner.
And then Bruce is followed by Patricia Allen.
Yeah, hi. I had no intention in speaking tonight, but I was told that I had to sign a piece of paper in order to be counted, and I want to make sure that I am counted. I'm new to Hampton Bays, and 2 years. I'm proud to be here. I snuck in. I know we don't need any more people here. And I actually agree that we don't need any more people here after me. Your beginning statement, Jay and board, you guys did a great job here. Apparently, again, wasn't here. I am thrilled to own a piece of property in this town. I love the water. I love parks that are on the water. I don't know of any others. I don't know any. I go to the ocean, but I don't know how to get to the bay without paying to get there. All I want to say is you guys have made some great decisions. Here's your chance to make another one. Option 3, baby. Bring it on.
Thank you.
I just want to say there's actually quite a number of bay access points that we can certainly make you aware of as a new resident. There's Hampton Bays has some of the best parks anywhere, and quite a number on the bay, so, okay? All right, so
Parcel
Patricia,
next door.
Good evening.
and then Patricia is followed by Gail Lombardi.
I am Patricia Allen. I am a senior citizen at this time. I can go back to my great grandparents who were here in good ground. Hampton Bays has had a lot of changes. One of the biggest things I'm disappointed is that we never had a village when you look around the wall. We did have our own police force at one time and other things. When they compare us to West Hampton or Sag Harbor, those are villages. Those people are dedicated. Their spaces were created years and years ago. So my first meeting came out when we were talking about the development of the downtown Hampton Bays. And now here I am again. I live on the corner of Bay Avenue in Norbury, which is the north end from where Bel Air Cove is. My concern, we talk about the density, we are dense, the crowdedness of the town. My concern is also how the fire department and the ambulance, not only the school is being stretched to a limit, our other services are stretched to a limit. As a senior citizen who's always lived in Hampton Bays, I want to stay in my own house. I don't want the taxes, and you look at our taxes, they have gone up, and yes, you put the school's number on the tax bill because primarily our taxes are school taxes. But I'm also concerned, I remember them talking about the waterfront wasn't worth anything until the 38 hurricane created the inlet. If we don't keep good, clean water, the waterfront is not going to be worth anything again. So let us go with the green space. Lovely plans. As I told Mr. Thiel when he was running for office back last fall, build them in Sag Harbor, not Hampton Bays.
Thank you.
All right, Gail, you are next, followed by Margaret Freelander.
Hi, good evening. So I guess I'll put up my vote right now is that in due respect to these lovely gentlemen who have done a great job and great plans, wrong spot, maybe not even in Hampton Bays. I mean, as the woman said earlier, we have a density issue in Hampton Bays. Jay and John, you ran, I think I still have your campaign promises back in 2016 about density in Hampton Bays and housing east of the canal. So let me remind you of those two things. As the person who was directly bullied and tried to be neutralized by members of this group, it's this group now in Hampton Bays that is no longer going to put up with bullying and neutralization. And that's why you changed your mind, that we could come here and now speak about a third plan. It wasn't that you had an epiphany. Well, when did you have that epiphany? Did you have that epiphany when you saw the letters to the press, when you saw the editorial? No. You had the epiphany when these people showed up at the rally, signed petitions, wrote letters to the editor. It should not take that much effort for the people of Hampton Bays to be respected by this board. I brought my big calculator. This is how you do tax calculations. $40,000 is $10 a residential homeowner in Hampton Bays, barely. I think most people here would pay $10 not to see that development go through. So please, it's not a big deal. It really isn't. As far as the density, I'm on the Hampton Bay Civic Association has now formed a density subcommittee. And Cindy, the density subcommittee has supported your resolution that was approved by the board of local, local rule, home rule for housing. But again, it's not against this development, but Hampton Bays needs the development, not in Hampton Bays. We just can't do it anymore. We have over 1,000 per square feet. The school taxes and all the property values, that's been a natural change in the East End. And I agree with Ray D'Angelo, you really can't take credit for housing prices across the United States or low birth rates. I don't know, Jay, I don't know what you have to do with that either, okay? So again, my main thing is we could discuss maybe later, maybe that's the compromise of what that open space gets used for. So maybe, maybe it's not the park, maybe it's not the perfect park, we could discuss it, but the development plans need to be off the table as soon as possible. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, hi, Margaret. Margaret Freelander.
Hi, everybody.
Followed by William Herbst.
Good evening. Thank you for having this hearing, and thank you for shifting your position in terms of hearing what people are calling option 3. I want to thank Marion Bowden, because during a phone call, she kind of called me out, and I'm always willing to listen and learn. So when I was at the work session to hear some of the prior development proposals, and guys, I agree. I mean, I love what you're doing, and the fact you've been sensitive about native planning and lead construction, I think is great, but I also agree with many of the other people, wrong place. But Marion said, Margaret, when you were at the work session, you clearly stated that you would like this green space undeveloped. However, if it were not to be, I preferred option 1 today, option 2 then. So thank you, Marion, because I think people have gotten together and spoken up, and I try to be optimistic. My husband might disagree with that, but so I'm hoping, since you said that you were listening and you wanted to hear from everybody, that this will be taken seriously and looked at. I'm running for trustee, Southampton Town trustee, and one of my points of view that I've been getting across, and many people here have shared that similar opinion. If you look up the definition of park in Merriam-Webster, there's lots of definitions and lots of different uses for park. I mean, one of them says an enclosed piece of ground stocked with game and held by royal prescription grant. But for me, the most important thing, because you guys are speaking about the environment and the water quality, et cetera, it's important that maybe we be more mindful in terms of the words we use or the meanings behind them. So I know a lot of people talk about a park. A park can also, if it's green grass or turf grass and non-native planting, that could be very harmful to the environment as well. So I think it's important to be very mindful as we hopefully take off the development off the table, to really think of revitalization doesn't have to be building, restoration, passive use, but no toxic chemicals, native planting, a pollinator corridor, and yes, use access for the public, I think, is important. I really love the fact that everybody has come out and is being very sensitive about the need to be protective of of this particular piece of property. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Margaret. William Herbst is next. Is William here? Not seeing him. I'll put that card aside. How about Elisa Hart?
Might be next door.
Elisa Hart, all right. And Ann Welker?
She's next door.
All right, so if you folks next door, if I called your name, if you want to queue up.
That's the only.
All right, just Ann? All right. Hello, Ann.
Hi, you guys. How are you? Thank you so much for the opportunity for the public to speak tonight. It's, I think, time well spent on all of your parts. Speak up, sorry.
Charles.
Hopefully that's better. I just wanted to say that sometimes we need to look to others to solve our problems. So I'd like to imagine, or for all of each of us to imagine, driving east on Montauk Highway through Watermill, Bridgehampton, and Wainscott. And as we get through Wainscott, looking off to the south to where there's a pullover. That's the headwaters of Georgica Pond and Talmadge Creek. So there's a property that was commercial for 50 years on that site. It was a restaurant. Some of you may have dined there. Most recently, it was Sapara de Mare. East Hampton Town CPF property purchased that property along with some private donations. That restaurant was taken down. The septic was capped. That's now a walking path with native grasses. I'd just like to encourage you to consider the health of Penny Pond, as was done with the removal of that property and its impact on Georgica Pond. Thank you to each of you.
All right, and we didn't have William Herbst or Elisa Hart, so the last card I have.
Hold on, right here. Jay.
Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am, what is your name? Ursula. Oh, all right, that's the last card. I was about to call your name. Ursula Hope? Okay. You're up, and then we're gonna go online, so.
Hello, I'm Ursula Hope, and I own a home since 1979 on Penny Lane. My children swam in Penny Pond from 1979 on. They grew up out there in the summers. I'd just like to address the quality of the water in Penny Pond. You used to be able to swim across Penny Pond, and my children learned how to swim in Penny Pond. They fished in Penny Pond. They got blue claw crabs in Penny Pond. They caught eels in Penny Pond. Can't do that anymore. Walk into Penny Pond, 10 feet. If you have water shoes on, the muck sucks them off your feet. So I really think that you have an opportunity now to really improve the quality of the water in Penny Pond. And I'd also like to mention there was another motel on Gardner's across from Penny Pond, about halfway down Penny Pond. Many years ago it was removed and condos were built there. Yes, you took away a blight. The motel wasn't very nice looking, but you put condos there, and then you put docks there, and now you have 10 boats there. And I heard in the beginning of one of the proposals that you were planning on possibly putting more docks there with more boats. So I urge you, please, think of our environment in Hampton Bays. Think of the quality of water and how it has changed. And you really have an opportunity now to improve that.
All right,
Thank you.
Ursula.
Thank you.
All right, so now we're going to switch to online. First of all, Charles, are there a large number of people online?
There are, but I see no hands.
All right, well, we haven't called for hands yet either, so why don't, if you're watching remotely and you do wish to be heard by the town board, the way for us to know that is for you to click the raise hand icon, typically found on the bottom of your screen. You can do that now, and we'll get a sense of how many people are looking to be heard.
So far, one.
Okay. Two. Okay. All right, so let's, want to bring that first person on?
If you decline, I can't bring you on.
Hi, I don't know if you hear me. My name is Gail Shepard, and I'm a member of the CEAC.
We can't see you yet.
This is Gail Shepard.
Gail Shepard. Okay.
Hi, I'm so sorry, I am away. I understand completely how the town purchased this motel and its disgusting situation. And I understand completely that the town needs to repay the money that was used for that to make the town whole. But on the other hand, with almost 2,000 people raising their hands saying that they want some green space, I think the town has to take a deep breath and look at this. I don't know how to repay the money, and I don't know how we would get the money truly to build that bulkhead that's 150 feet, and it's probably close to $200,000 to build, and the sludge that needs to be removed in front of the station where all the decrement went. But I urge the town to see if we could come to some kind of middle ground and help the whole situation. Thank you.
That was Gail Shepard.
All right, thank you. That was Gail?
Gail Shepard.
Shepard, right? Thank you, Gail, if you can still hear me. And we're going to bring in is there one more, Charles? All right, who do we have?
Patricia?
Okay, Patricia, what's?
Hamill.
Hamill?
Yes.
Hi, Patricia, we can hear you.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you for making the time to hear out all of us who have an opinion on this matter. I'm so hopeful that these voices will make a difference in the way the town board decides to go and truly offer an option 3 and give us a green space. I have discovered Hampton Bays in 1987, purchased a home here in 2000, and it is my dream. I am never happier than when I crest the Pond Bridge and look out on what I think is the single most beautiful scenes in the world. We live in a beautiful place, and it would be marvelous if we could preserve that property as a green space that us regulars could appreciate and enjoy. So thank you for your time this evening. And as someone else said, this should be a no-brainer. Thank you.
Thank you.
right, is there someone else, Charles?
Helene Heller?
Oh, yeah. All right, Helene, can you hear me? Helene, can you hear me? I cannot hear you.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, oh, good, okay. We can see you, though the light is flashing on and off.
Okay, there's a time delay, so I'm just going to make my comments. I can't really see you at the same time.
Okay.
I just want to thank everyone for their time and their effort in not only presenting their points of view, but the board being willing to consider the popular feedback that you've received. And I want to thank Ursula for being the first person who actually lives around the corner from the site for speaking up. And please consider her comments regarding the current state of Penny Pond. And I just wanted to add to that and specifically address Councilmember Martell's comments that he's heard people say there are enough parks. I don't know where these people live, but they certainly don't live where I do, which is around the corner on Penny. There are not any parks. You have to go 2 miles to get to a park. They're gorgeous on both the bay and the ocean by Pond Bridge. But there is no park without having to go a few miles to get to it, except for a children's playground on Foster.
Yeah.
So please consider that, Councilmember Martell. I also want to be clear, given what's currently on Penny Pond, that I do not support any motorized equipment of any kind. That includes a food truck's generator, or if an oyster bar needs one as well, on that site. There are still two bars in the neighborhood which cause havoc for the residents in terms of their music, and one is Station Bar, which is right next door to the site. The trustees' property is used by patrons as a parking lot, and the Station Bar itself is polluting Penny Pond. All you have to do is look at the monster trucks that drive across their dock adjacent to the dining area, and the parking lot that the Station Bar also has along the other side of Penny Pond. They actually have 2 parking areas and a marina. And finally, I'd like you to consider that, as was previously mentioned, anyone who owns private property can do whatever they want, because at least my side of the street is zoned RWB. I know that the neighbor who surrounds me on 3 sides and is on Penny Pond has expressed the desire to develop their property in accordance with having a waterfront business zoning consideration. And so it's the utmost important that the town be responsible on land that they now own. I think the idea of a natural wetlands is terrific. I would encourage the dredging consideration, improving the trustee access, and I would love to see the board and the trustees collaborate on what could be an unprecedented, environmentally sound and responsible development of both of those plots. And finally, in terms of the desire to bring tourism, I'm certainly not opposed to that, but please consider that there's motels, as one of the developers mentioned, adjacent to the site on Penny, and there is a motel on Penny. And at the end of Penny, at the mouth of Penny Pond on the bay, is a former boatel, which was turned into a motel after a fire in the 70s, which is supposed to be a motel. And their septic is zoned, as the trustees know, for a transient facility, but a blind eye has been turned on that site, as it's been used for the last several years as permanent housing under contract with Southampton Hospital. So in closing, I just want to say that we already have motels in that neighborhood. We already have an excess of motorized boats, polluting the pond, and we have serious environmental needs that need to be addressed. And finally, we need a park.
It's a resort zone.
30
We
seconds.
do not have enough parks. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Charles, anyone else online?
Yes.
Hello?
I can hear you, I cannot see you.
Okay, great. I'm sorry, I don't think my camera's working. I apologize. My name is Lisa Porco. Thanks for the time tonight to review the options for the property. My ask is that we evaluate all options, 1, 2, and 3, and make the best decision for Hampton Bays and its future for our children. I'm not going to weigh in on what option I prefer today. Instead, I'm just tired of seeing the blight property. I'm tired of seeing the condition of the property. You know, before it was purchased, it looked horrible and there was people living in it. And today, the property still looks horrible, boarded up and even more deteriorated with no people living in it. So my request is that we make a decision quickly after evaluating all 3 options. And by this time next year, the property no longer looks the way it does in the condition that it is today. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
See no more hands.
All right. You did speak once, and I'm loath to,
It's just something, a little.
just, can it be really quick, and you be the only one? Because then everybody, I don't want everybody to want a second.
There's a hand.
There's another hand?
Oh, there is a hand?
Okay.
But I,
Cut off.
Geraldine, I recognize that you're chairwoman of the CAC, so.
Of the Civic.
Oh, sorry, the Civic, so.
So I get a minute?
No, let's get this person, one more person on,
Okay.
and then I'll give you a 1 minute. I can't hear you, sir.
Now we can.
We're having a little problem with video and stuff like that. We're out of town.
I can hear you now.
Here we are.
What's your name?
Yes, we are. My name's Parker Trowernick. I live over on 13 Westbury, which is also pretty close to the motel. I just want to kind of go back and address global warming. And this is not, I still remember 10 years ago, people were kind of going, yeah, global warming. Today, we can't deny global warming. It's there. And to go ahead and build on something where we right now have the opportunity, really a responsibility to save and make a piece of land, it's a start, to make a piece of land that will absorb water rather than flood cesspools and flood housing and good grief, you know, FEMA must be like, please, don't build there. And I appreciate everybody's take on this, and Jay, I appreciate the board listening to us, and I know you were pretty set on the condos there or homes for people my age, but I don't think we need that at that site. I am not against the downtown redevelopment. I don't think many people in Hampton Bays are against it. We all have different opinions that need to be set. But on this piece of property, I think in Hampton Bays, 95% of the people would love to have wetlands or a park there. And I'll let it go at that. I apologize for this, otherwise I can't hear you guys without headphones on. I'm happy to see everybody though now. So thank you though, I appreciate the time.
All right, thank you.
I'm gonna go away.
All right, Charles.
Oh, no, I won't. No more hands.
All right, perfect. Geraldine, you can have the last minute.
This was just something I had to
You have
say.
any idea?
You good?
Why?
Hold on.
All right, we still have Parker, so.
All right, I apologize. I can go away here. I'll stop.
Yeah, just mute yourself. Yeah, okay, thank you, Geraldine.
This is just in relation to the lady that lived on Penny Pond and had a comment about the water quality. I've spent a lot of time over there. I know people that live there as well. And it was just a story about a year ago in the summer. A guest who had maybe spent a little too much time at the station bar decided to walk back to the house he was at on the bulkhead. Of course, it was after midnight, and as I said, he was there quite a while. Well, he fell in, and his friends thought it was the funniest thing because he was face down, and when he stood up, he looked like a creature from the Black Lagoon, covered with muck and greenish stuff, and they all thought it was tremendously funny. But that came to my mind because it was such a bizarre-looking thing, but that whole pond from Shinnecock back to the station needs to be dredged desperately. It's full of muck. And at the end where the trustee's property is, at low tide, the boats are in the sand because the whole thing has been filling in. So I'm not an expert in dredging. I'm not an expert in the exact water quality, but you don't need to be a genius to look at somebody standing up covered with muck that you wouldn't. I said, you should go get a tetanus shot. But, so I'm just saying that there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and this is a great opportunity to start with the park and go all the way down and clean the whole thing up so it can be really well used by everyone. That's all. Maybe there's other water that need to do the same thing, but that's what I think we need because we're discussing this one.
Thank you.
Okay, so to the board, we certainly have heard a lot from the public this evening and prior to this in petition drives and letters and emails. There's certainly a lot of people who do not like the plan that the board adopted. I know some of you didn't vote for it on the board. The intention was to, try to, keep it on the tax rolls, help lower property tax. And there was a lot of voice. Let me tell you, 7 years ago, as many voices as I've heard saying, do something about Bel Air and don't take it off the tax rolls. So now times have changed. Now it's okay. It's the tax consequence isn't much, and the park is more desired than the economic development, perhaps. I'm trying to figure out. Look, we've heard, we've changed plans before. There was the bypass road. We abandoned that. There was the appeal on the downtown zoning. We abandoned that. There was the sanitary area. We abandoned that. I remember proposing the Ponquag Pavilion originally getting rehabilitated, and I wanted a restaurant, and nobody else wanted a restaurant, so we abandoned that. It's not that we don't listen. We're really working hard to try to do what the people of Hampton Bays want. I mean, it's clear that the people are speaking with a unified voice here. We've had these two applicants who really worked really hard to respond to our requests for proposals to redevelop this property at a lesser density. And, the idea of tourism, some people think tourism is a bad thing, but we do want our stores to survive, our shops, our restaurants to survive. Downtown, there's a lot of nail salons, but, some of the others, people want bookstores and people want, ice cream stores and things like that. And okay. So there is, when that phone stops, it's an interesting ringer. So, yeah, I heard of somebody with a duck one today at a meeting. It started quacking in the middle of the meeting. So anyway, look, there's a couple paths forward here. We could evaluate multiple proposals other than the urban renewal plan. We worked really hard on that urban renewal plan to try to come up with viable tourism-based uses with lower density and answer the environmental concerns. We could look at a park. We could look at some, CPF doesn't allow food trucks. CPF doesn't allow farmers markets and craft shows. CPF doesn't allow concessions like clam bars and things like that. So, maybe not going the CPF route is possible. Do we have to repay the town? That's a town board decision. We took the money out of reserves. It's the people's money. The trustees have expressed an interest here. These folks have spent time and money trying to respond to our request. There's a number of paths forward. And one thing possibly is we could put together a committee to look at the 3 options, or 4 options, whatever the options are, with the Civic and the CAC and the Beautification Committee and the PTA and Chamber of Commerce, and put a bunch of, community reps and say, okay, can we fairly evaluate the benefits, the pros and cons of each, and advise the board as to the path forward? We could do that. I would support that. So I don't know. I don't think we need to keep the hearing open. I think the board has heard enough and we can make a decision. So we could close it, but I don't know that we ought to make a decision right now on the 2 proposals. That's something I'm gonna have to talk with both of you guys about. And you also heard all these folks who don't want either of your proposals. And, we have to wrestle with that as well. We are ultimately public servants and representatives of a community. So, at this point, I'll kick it to other board members.
So if I could start. So first, if you want to shoot the messenger, go ahead, but there were some people who did not want to park. I'll just put that out there. My feeling coming into tonight was simple. I had heard everybody. That's why we go through this process. That's why I second the motion to get to this point, so that everybody here could come out, express their views, and since then, we've gotten to read the newspaper, the editorials, the letters to the editor. People have spoken to me directly. So coming into this tonight, my opinion was that we should attach a plan number 3 to this and discuss it amongst us on moving forward with getting the public input on a plan number 3, what we liked about 1 and 2, and put together a plan to continue to bring you in to figure out what we're going to do. There's a big difference, I think, between green space and a passive park with an athletic component where we could have kayaks and stuff like that. So that's where you would have to come in and kind of decide which one that is. I agree wholeheartedly that the Penny Pond definitely needs to be dredged. I was actually in conversation with the trustees yesterday and today about that. We would need a place to put the spoils. If they're not used in one of these developments to fill in holes, they would sit there for a while, okay? But that, again, people have been asking me for that to be dredged for 2 or 3 years now, okay? I think it's important that we do that. I appreciate everybody coming out. I agree that a passive park or either one of these plans could be beneficial to the tourism idea in that area. But you guys have definitely come out and spoken, so I believe we really have to put our heads together and figure out what a viable Plan 3 could be, and then weigh that against these 2.
John?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we've always had this issue in front of us, and I think we need to discuss this. Heard a lot of interesting comments. I just want to make one correction on the dredging. It's a very narrow area. Spoils have to be dewatered, and that can be quite an expensive, difficult to get barges and things like that, so it would have to be trucked out. So there's more to it. And I like the idea of having input from the community.
John, can you speak up a little bit?
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. I'm talking to Rick. I just wanted to point out that when you dredge, you need to dewater the materials. So that requires trucks having to be loaded and moved out, and just that kind of thing. So it's a little disruptive, but just so that you're aware, I totally agree the place should be dewatered. Should be dredged. It's been an issue since the cesspools failed there a long time ago. There's a lot of dredge spoils and a lot of sediment from septic systems there. I would like the idea of, I've heard a lot. It's been really interesting. You're unified. You're working on something that I take great passion in. And I think I would like to have people together, the different groups here that have been represented tonight, so we can add that to our options and our discussions when we talk and go forward. That's my opinion.
Cindy, and then Tom.
So I was actually present for the public hearing in 2019. I was actually here for something else, but I sat through it. I wasn't a resident of Hampton Bays, I'm a resident of East Quogue. But it was overwhelmingly, everyone that was at that public hearing spoke and said that they wanted a park. And that's why I went on the record right away and said, if I was on the board in 2019, I would have voted for a park, which is why I didn't vote for the RFP. So I just want to thank you guys, first of all, for coming to our work sessions and this meeting and the work that you've put in. But I do believe that it needs to be a park, and, you know, it's been off the tax rolls now since 2019, since the town purchased it. And, you know, we had a property such like this in East Quogue, which was purchased with town money. And after Sandy, the building was purchased in the hopes to be a community center, but after Sandy, the building got, you know, damaged, and so the town gifted it to CPF, and CPF came in and tore down the blighted building, and now it's a beautiful part of our marine park in East Quogue. That's kind of what I would like to see here. I don't see partnering, you know, I would like to make it a town project. I don't really see partnering with the trustees, given the state of the property next door. Definitely work with them to clean up that property as well, but I would really like to see it a park.
The idea of making it like a Cedar Point with all the music and the bands and all that stuff, I think is totally out of the question. I think it really, if we're going to do this, we do it right, and we do it with a passive park. The kayak launches are fine. You know, we do have a number of other parks. We've made, John and I are liaison to the parks in you know, across the town, and obviously I like to concentrate on Hampton Bays. And we've made a lot of improvements that Jay didn't even talk about. We put over $1 million in this year's budget to put back into Red Creek Park. We just did about $150,000 for a screening at Good Ground Park for the concert area. You know, we've worked really hard on the Maritime Park, and we're putting in bathrooms. We've just put in the parking lot and the picnic area. You know, so we worked very hard on the parks. We did almost immediately, as fast as government can do it, you know, redo the playground at Foster Avenue Park, you know, which is only a couple blocks away, which I wish was used more. So we certainly put our investments into Hampton Bays, the park system there, and, you know, again, Jay left a little bit off that list, because we do a lot on the parks in Hampton Bays.
And I know Tommy John's waiting to speak, but I'm afraid if we go down the road of having more discussions on what type of park and what it should be and how we get there, another year, another 2 years that blighted building sits there.
Tommy John?
Thank you, everyone, for coming out. Really, it's good to see you. It's good to hear from you. You know, when I got on this board in 2018, I want you all to remember the Bel Air Motel. Okay, just sit with that, because we really developed this in comparison to what that was. And I'm not going to go into it, except that you know how that was in the community. We were tasked with doing something about this challenging parcel, this situation over there, and keeping it on the tax roll. That was part of it. I was here, I remember it. I'm a former teacher, I'm a member of a board of education. I'm keenly aware of tax rolls and school taxes and how important that is to a community. And by the way, you have a great school. A lot of fantastic stuff is happening at your school. You know, it's in the paper all the time. That's an aside. But, so we created an urban renewal plan to address the hotel, to address the situation with the water quality, because the old hotel, with the amount of people in that hotel, was a real problem on this water body. So we're comparing to what we have now to what that was. Now that that is no longer the case, so we're looking at a different set of circumstances. And I want you to know that in that time, I heard loud and clear from the community what you wanted, and this is what we created. Throw in a world pandemic, a county health department that was shut down by a cyber attack. It shut the health department down. We couldn't get, health department permits and all that. So it took a while. As fast as government goes, I like it. That's funny. We have to follow a lot of state laws and, for good reason. So I believe that we do need to look at our urban renewal plan. That is the plan that guides this particular parcel right now. We passed it, and we are hearing from the community now. So we did hear you. Gentlemen, I do like your proposals. I think that you've put a lot into this. These are good ideas, and they're good ideas on this parcel. Compared to what this was, I believe that they are infinitely better than what this parcel was 5 years ago. All right, so just at least give us that. It is what it is. But so I do believe that we need to take a good look at our plan. And just another aside, I am proud of the work that we've done in Hampton Bays. We bought that commercial dock from the county. Didn't have to do that. We could have walked away from that thing, and we rebuilt it for good reason. We we allowed an important industry in your community to grow and thrive. And I believe that the people who are working down there, they're still there. And, so that's just one of the many things that Rick said and what Jay said earlier. So I believe that we do need to take a look at our urban renewal plan. Your comments, I don't believe that we necessarily have to keep this open, and, we can go from there.
Just one, I hate to do this, one minor correction. So we didn't buy the commercial dock. I got the county to donate
It was a buck, right? It was $1.
Because they didn't want to rebuild it.
They were letting it go, and we rebuilt it, and we rebuilt it
We were
right.
doing all the work and paying for everything, and they owned it.
So
Right.
I do want to respond a little bit to that. I'm sorry. I'd like to respond to a couple of things. One is, I do agree. Can I grab the mic?
Yeah, you can bring it closer.
Your mic.
Can you hear me now? Okay. Sorry, I have to wear this for personal reasons, but I appreciate it. I don't agree with you, Cindy, in one case. I think we should put this on the plate for discussion. I think we should look at the park. I do agree. I love the work. I like the idea. I agree with the councilman that it fits fits a lot of boxes and a lot of reasons. But I also hear this community saying they want something, and I think we need to look at it in conjunction with the other things that we're talking about together. But I will also point out that one person's park is another person's airfield, and I discovered that when doing Miss Spilka's park, Andrea Spilka Park in Eastport. I thought it would be a really simple thing, a nice park, but everybody has a different idea. So you really need to have some stakeholders together to combine to give one view so that we can compare that and discuss that in consideration of all this work, which I totally agree. I think this is good. I think it's meaningful. I think it fits in with what we had talked about many years ago. But I also hear your voices. So let's put them together on one plate and let's consider them. And let's be fair and reasonable. Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, so, all right, sure, I'll.
Developers, may I ask this question? One of the developers, the senior citizen developer?
Sure, yeah, Rich, we have one question before we.
No garages. So where's the parking? Just in front of the? Okay.
Okay, all right. Janice, did you need to say anything at the close? All right, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Second by Councilman McNamara, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Wait till everybody clears out.
Yeah, we have one other item of business, so, well, let's take 5 minutes so that everybody can exit.
Oh.
Let them leave the room. What?
We need to call for public.
If we open it.
Oh, the public portion is next.
Quick save. Public portion.
Yes, I know. We're giving 5 minutes for people to go, so, and then we're gonna do public portion. No, just that public hearing is closed. That's it.
How you doing? Are you? Yeah.
Oh.
Teflon.
thanks. We are trying to do what's best for the community.
It's really difficult, because in some places you gotta build
That may be a
concrete
moving target
in order
going
to
forward.
dewater.
All right, so,
I wanted to rip it right there.
Good
all
night.
right, the next, you guys still working? Yeah, we
Yeah,
are not done.
We got
so-
more to do.
Okay, so
We're halfway through. Thank you.
all right, so next up, thank you, sir. All right, next up is public portion. And maybe even before we do public portion, we should do this.
Add-on.
Do the add-on, so, all right, so I want to add one item to the agenda, one resolution. I apologize to the board for having to do this, but we are trying to close on a CPF acquisition tomorrow. And in reviewing the documents, one of the entities' names was not the same as in the resolution. And so the docket number 42946 would authorize me to execute a development rights restricted use easement, public access easement waiver of right, first refusal, and declaration of consent to transfer fee ownership interest from the Elaine Steinbeck Trust to Writers Retreat LLC regarding 2 Bluff Point Lane, the John Steinbeck home in Sag Harbor. I'd like to walk that on. I'll need 4, and then when we get to it, I'll explain a little bit in more detail, but it's pretty simple.
Second.
So, all right, seconded by Councilman Scavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, thank you for that. Let's do public portion next. There's nobody left here at Town Hall. Kitty, did you want to say something?
Nothing that you could have on a family.
All right, so we're going to go online.
Best comment of the night.
You want to come and explain that?
Charles, is there
Mics are
anybody?
hot.
We're still hybrid. Kitty, you missed my speech, so I'll get you a copy of it.
I'm sure.
Oh, you'll listen to it, maybe, at the beginning.
She waits with
So you
bated
got here a
breath.
little late. Okay, so, Charles, online, do we have anybody who is looking to be heard in public portion? This is a time for the public to speak on any matter, not the subject of the public hearing, but
Is Charles there?
anything else.
Sure.
Nobody,
Nobody's
no
there, he
hands?
said.
Yes.
Okay, I'll make a motion to close public portion.
Second.
Second by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, so let me get to this resolution. First, let me make a motion to approve, 42946, I won't read it. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Schiavone. So, it was clearly understood that we were buying the development rights from the Elaine Steinbeck Trust. And that they were going to sell the fee to the Sag Harbor Partnership. That's the way it was going to work, and we're all doing this at the closing table. But we also understood that the not-for-profit, the Sag Harbor Partnership, was going to set up a new entity to manage this property. They just hadn't told us the name of it yet. So now it's called the Writers Retreat LLC. It's actually a for-profit within a not-for-profit, but it's completely controlled. Any profits go right back to the not-for-profit. But the documents I have all say Writers Retreat LLC, and the documents also say if you are transferring the fee from one entity to another, the town board has to agree to that. And so I was not comfortable signing off on that since you guys haven't agreed to transfer the fee to the Writers Retreat LLC. And so, Dan came to me with the documents today for the closing tomorrow, and I said, Dan, I can't sign it. He said, you probably can. I think Jim said you probably can, but I wanted to be on the safe side. So I wanted a resolution where you guys clearly said, yes, the Writers Retreat LLC is acceptable. Of course, I'll examine their articles of incorporation and make sure everything is proper.
Actually, that came forward from Dan, too. I don't know if you saw that.
Okay.
I'm in agreement. I read the email, so I'm fine.
Yeah, everybody understand the situation? All right, we had a motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved, and we will close this tomorrow. So, okay,
So they came up with the other $200,000, I'm guessing?
I guess they did.
We're going with yes.
Well, last I know, they were selling $5 cocktails to make $185,000, so
Yeah, it's better than cupcakes.
I'm guessing they found a couple of
Bake
donors.
sale. All right, I'm getting there. Well, apparently there's other business, so, okay, I do have to ask, if there's any other business.
No.
Hearing none, I'll make a motion to close.
Second.
Or adjourn, I'll make a motion to adjourn, seconded by Councilman
Bouvier.
Bouvier. I don't recognize you.
Long night.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you all.